Welcome to 372 Pages We'll Never Get Back. This is Connor Listoka, joined as always by Mike Nelson. Mike, we got a new book on our hands today. Are you excited?
I am very excited, actually. I like it. We'll get into that soon, but there's a big issue up front.
An elephant in the room.
Big one.
It's
which is pretty great. It's pretty us.
I was looking at our emails, before recording the podcast yesterday, and I found one with the subject line. There's a whole bunch of emails. I went through them, usually in order, but this one just stood out, so I read it before all the others because the subject line was Irene Iddesleigh pronunciation, and
Your favorite thing.
I almost opened it up and just took a picture of my middle finger to respond to this guy Jed, this kindly person who wrote in to correct this, but. Sure. As it turns out, he had a bit of a point. He said, I am writing you post-haste in order to let you know the correct pronunciation of Irene, etc. He says, Iddesleigh only has one L, not two. So it's pronounced Iddesleigh, not Iddesleigh. I mean, Iddesleigh, which we had both been saying, I think. Iddesleigh.
Oh, absolutely. I had no doubt whatsoever. I don't know if you said it first or I did. We can check the record on that. But 100% confirmation bias of just going, it looks like Iddesleigh.
Uh-huh. It seems like there should be.
Of course, that's the obvious.
Like Tom Hiddleston or something like that. And
yeah.
I'm looking at the book. I have the paperback right here. And it's very apparent that it is just Iddesleigh or Iddesleigh, whatever, but not Iddle. There's no Iddle.
Not at all. No, it's the video of the how many times do they pass the basketball, and then you count that, and then they say, "Did you notice the cartoon bear running through the scene?" And you're like, "I did not see that," and you do not believe that it was there before, and in fact it was. So it's the same phenomenon. I just 100% believed it was Iddles.
Right? Yeah. You Iddled. You can't Iddle. There's no L.
There's no L in there.
You're an Iddler. So, thank you, Jed.
Jerry.
Jed also wrote in to say, Irene isn't a two-syllable Irene, but a three-syllable Irene, which settle down. He said he listened to a recording of this book, and so a woman with a British accent was reading it, and that's how they were pronouncing it. I'm not going to.
Okay.
I'm not going to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So the song is "Good Night, Irene."
Kind of ruins the meter there.
Yeah. All right.
But we do appreciate Jed writing in. I'm shocked that he was the only one, because usually that would just be, pouncing jackals to inform us of this, but.
Oh, it's the phenomenon of when I was on Twitter, when my jokes would be fact checked shockingly quickly. Chickens don't generally cross roads or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Just like okay.
I got a couple of those this morning, as a matter of fact. I posted one of our slides from our live show that was a Neutral Milk Hotel joke, and someone wrote in to say I missed a layup by not doing a certain thing that I didn't do.
You blew it.
I know.
You blew it. The worst thing that I ever did, though, was I guess I had a phone that was not compatible. When I would take a photo, it would post it sideways. Uh-huh. Oh, my God. You'd think that I had murdered people's children. It was just like, did you lay on your side to take this photo? Just hundreds and hundreds of them. I think you've got the corrective software to look at this picture.
Wow. Yeah, a delightful place. And you say you're a former Twitter user.
I have a former. Well, I wonder why. Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to discussion of Irene Iddesleigh, or whatever the hell you call it.
Idris Elba. What are we calling this?
Yes.
I don't know.
And it's by, we're probably going to pronounce it wrong, Amanda McKittrick Ross, who, and if you missed the introduction episode, it's been called the worst novel, and she the worst novelist in history by luminaries such as Mark Twain and C.S. Lewis and the Inklings. So we're gonna dive into it, and right away I think we debated whether it would be laugh out loud funny. I'm not sure I find myself there, but it certainly is the least amount of stuff probably ever in one of our episodes happened in this one, I would say.
It is shocking how this stuff is meted out, the plots, and there is a moment where something does happen, and we'll get to it. It was shocking to me. It was though like the shark finally came out of the water in Jaws or something, where he goes, he furiously rang the bell for the maid. I was like, oh shit, something happened.
Right.
It wasn't 7 paragraphs of just this sticky honey prose. It was like, a thing.
Yeah.
And it just stuck out to me like, whoa, that's like a James Bond action sequence.
Right. It's an 8-minute set piece chase through a crowded market or something.
Yes.
Well, it's very unique in terms of the way that the story's told, because you're told all these things that are happening without witnessing any of them happening. You know what I mean? It's 100% telling, not showing. Like it has, there for our relationships in theory that are developing and failing in this book, but the characters don't speak to each other for probably the first 8 chapters.
Oh, I mean, yeah, you said the story, and it's like that's a strong word,
Sure.
but yes,
Yeah.
there is one, I guess, in there. But I would say that she does not sort of write her way into it, where it's like you're not sure in the first, where are we going with this? Like, nope, she comes out of the gate with her style fully on display, and I'll just start with the opening because this is amazing. Sympathize with me indeed. Ah, no. Cast your sympathy on the chill waves of troubled waters. Fling it on the oases of futurity. Dash it against the rock of gossip. Or better still, allow it to remain within the false and faithless bosom of buried scorn.
Yeah.
Okay. Such were a few remarks of Irene as she paced the beach of limited freedom alone and blah, blah, blah. So, remarks.
Yeah.
I look at remarks as like,
Hey, check it out, a horseshoe crab.
This fish is pretty good. I haven't noticed that painting before.
Supposed to rain tomorrow.
Yes. But sure, remarks.
Mine rarely involve the word bosom, that's for sure.
No. Or casting my sympathies upon anything rarely comes up in my remarks.
Yeah.
So that was impressive right out of the gate.
Yeah, and it's we're supposed to, when I went back to transcribe my notes, I was like, oh, this is Irene remarking here. We don't meet Irene for several more chapters here.
Right. Yes.
So it doesn't make any sense. So the first time you read it, it still doesn't make sense when you go back to read it. Like, because I don't know if this is we're seeing the end of the book here at the beginning of it or what.
Yes. I think the structure is impenetrable because you often have to reread just to know what.
Yeah.
This person doesn't like this other person. Could you just draw the black line for me just to tell me?
The what do you call it? The journey of their relationship is very difficult and only made slightly more sense to me upon the second read in terms of, it's like she hated him with the fire of 1,000 suns, and I'm like, did this come out of nowhere? Like,
yes, yeah. I have that a couple times. Like, what is this first time? I'm not going to go back and look because there's no way to search for it through this prose.
But the prose to me, we talked a little bit, I think, about throughout the course of this podcast, somewhat like the terrible old books I had to read in English classes in college and stuff like that. And it was the same experience with those too, just written in this sort of overwritten, superfluous style of extra words and whimsy and words you don't use anymore. And I went back and I have a passage for later. It's not that different from the classics of the genre.
Well, it's so much worse, though. Okay. I understand this style. She's obviously, aping a style.
Right.
But I would say that even what would be its best example would be, I don't know, like Dickens likes to do it. He likes, super sentences, but they land with like a joke or something, or with a, I've always thought I'm, a pale, very, very, very pale imitation of Dickens sometimes. I like that style of larding up the sentence with a lot of false starts and then landing it with a joke or something. But hers are just false start after false start.
Right, false start chapters.
Yes.
Well, so we begin to start getting to introduce to our main character, who is Sir John of Dunfern. He lives in Dunfern Mansion, and it starts to describe the house to us. It says, there was nothing save an enormous iron gate meets the gaze of the visitor, who at first is inclined to think that all public rumors relative to its magnificence are only the utterances of the boastful and idle. And so we talked some trash here, but that was my first thought. I did believe that, that it was that all these public rumors I've heard about its magnificence are only the utterances of the boastful and idle. But it's not true. Nor until its winding paths of finest pebbles, studded here and there with huge stones of unpolished granite, could the mind for a moment conceive or entertain the faintest idea of its quaint grandeur. So that's the first real description we've got. So it just paints a picture in your mind of what we're supposed to be beholding here.
But here's how people react as well. This is, I think, right after that. And I want to recreate this, and I'll just work up to it, but I'll describe it first. It has often been the chief subject of comment amongst the few distinguished visitors welcomed within its spacious apartments why seemingly the finest rooms the mansion owned were always shut against their eager and scrutinizing gaze, or why, when they referred to by any of them, the matter was always treated with silence. Okay, so I'm one of the few distinguished visitors.
And I'm Sir John Dunfern.
You're Sir John Dunfern.
Oh, how you enjoying the party here?
Oh my God, it's like quaint grandeur is what I would describe it as. It's amazing.
That was what I was going for.
So that is a painting of a wolf. I love that. That is amazing.
Thank
that looks like
that
it's
was
been
done by Petto, the known artist.
Oh, of course, yeah. Man, this staircase, it goes up and on and on. Hey, what are those locked rooms there? What's that all about?
Oh, never mind those.
All right, well, I'm going to get back to the cheese puffs.
Enjoy the hors d'oeuvres, but what the? So there's just any guest that comes to your house has a right to explore, every single inch of your castle.
I don't know. I guess they're wandering around like, hey, you want to stick with the party? Or no, I'll be in the West Wing for a while. And checking on door handles.
And it is, doesn't it say, where was it? Locked incessantly. Or they assume, read the very first part of it again, like seemingly the finest rooms.
Yes, it has often been the chief subject of comment amongst the few distinguished visitors welcomed within its spacious apartments, why seemingly the finest rooms the mansion owned were always shut against their eager and scrutinizing gaze.
Okay, let's roll it back. You be the guy again asking to go into the locked room.
Okay.
Into one of the seemingly finest rooms.
And it was always treated with silence. Okay, so, again, great party.
Thank you.
The stuffed mushrooms were a hit.
Do you have any walnuts by the fire? That's a big thing to do in these type of houses.
I had some port and walnuts. Yes. I certainly did. I discussed the matters of the day. But mostly what I did is I wandered around.
Sure.
It's clear the party should be here, but I just went through your halls and stuff. Mm-hmm. Checked a few of you have nice socks, by the way.
Well, thank you.
May I congratulate you. Your garters are well placed.
Yeah. Well, I'm a 40-year-old man. I'm not, I'm not putting my mattress on the floor anymore.
Oh no, you're famously a bachelor. I hope you know that. Yeah. So I was just going around and I was checking doors, and I went to one door. It looked like a great door. Mm-hmm. I mean, wide. It looked like what was behind that. It's got to be your best room. Oh. And so I checked it, and it was locked. What the hell, man?
Oh well, yeah. I'm. Let me come show you what's actually in there. Just get the key off the big key ring here.
Sure. Yeah.
Finger with that and unlock it. It's a big sign lock, and open it up, and there's a water cooler. And a light bulb without a fixture, just sort of hanging from the ceiling.
Huh. Well, see, I guess then I was mistaken about this being your best room.
Well, you thought it was seemingly the finest room, but that's a weird thing to sum up, just seeing a locked door, So that's
why it's locked. Okay.
Right.
Wow. I was, I had made up stories about it. Yeah. Was talking with a lot of the other people who come here. We all have been commenting on it quite a bit. So I will go back and tell them that we should probably not speculate on this
Tell them not to assume that anything inside a locked box is going to seemingly good, because there's no reason to surmise that. So.
All right. I'll do back to the stuffed mushrooms then. Okay.
But yeah, it is they're locked incessantly against the foot of the cautious intruder. So again, is this going to be some sort of mystery that's revealed later on? A Bluebeard, isn't that the famous pirate who said that his wife could go to any room except this one room, and then it was all the former dead wives that he had murdered?
Yeah, I feel like the locked room of which no one has entered would have been a cliche for already a couple hundred years by the time she wrote this.
I also like this stone of costliest cut and finish, the richest vineries, the most elegant ferns, the daintiest conservatories, the flowers and plants of almost every clime and abundance, the most fashionable walks, the most intricate windings that imagination could possibly conceive. So I took that as a challenge because I'm sitting here imagining some pretty intricate windings, and I sort of want an illuminated version of this book in order to see if they match up to what my imagination was conceiving here.
And also the plants and flowers of almost every clime.
Yeah.
So those survive, I guess.
Right. Yeah. The Arctic
Sir
tundra
John's
that
place.
he's keeping in that behind that locked door, maybe.
Right. Weird. Here's one of the sentences where, for the first time, because we're still in chapter 1,
Okay.
which is very brief.
Yeah.
Stop a human being on the street and say these words to them.
Okay.
And see what happens. All that can now be done is merely to allow the thought to dwindle into bleak oblivion until aroused to that standard of disclosure which defies hindrance. I mean, the person might, if they were very decent, they might ask you to repeat that sentence.
Yeah, while
and
looking
then,
around to see if your handlers were looking for you with a net or something.
Yeah, and then they would crouch low and punch you right in the groin and run away.
So I had suggested to Gabe where we take a sentence like that and we see what percentage we can reduce the word count to while retaining its same meaning. Are you able to do that with that one?
This one I didn't even try. I just have a giant what by it. I do not know.
All right.
The first part, it is at least comprehensible. All that can now be done is merely to allow the thought to dwindle into bleak oblivion.
Okay, so
best to
let it
forget
go
about
is what they're saying.
Let it go until aroused to that standard of disclosure which defies hindrance.
Oh,
that's where I'm tripping.
You've lost me there.
I'm tripping over that one.
So many of these sentences, I feel like I'm a bad reader, or maybe my attention span's been warped by my phone or something. But I'm like, just my thoughts shift to the cartoon mule lying there with flies buzzing around it or something. That's
Speaking of The Simpsons, cutting to Homer's brain.
Yeah, it's the drinking bird or something.
Yes.
But then, it ends with the cryptic genealogy saying the present owner here is the only son of. I mean, we impose this on it, but the present owner is only son of Sir John Dunfern, by Irene, adopted daughter of Lord and Lady Dilworth of Dilworth Castle, County Kent. So this again doesn't make any sense when you read it, and when you go back, it's like, are we looking at a flash forward here? Like the present owner is the only son of Sir John Dunfern by Irene.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even notice because we were only barely out of the gate. Right. I didn't even notice that.
I only noticed it on my note taking.
So the Sir John
is the guy who we come to maybe meet in chapter 2, but
is the only son of Sir John. The present owner.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So the chapter 1
as a flash forward.
So chapter 1's a big flash forward.
Right.
Oh, okay. I just read it as so the son is John Dunford's the son of Hugh, right, who built the place or something. Right. I don't know.
I think everyone around here was probably the son of a guy named Hugh, or 90% of them.
Sure.
Let's move on to chapter 2.
This one I have a rewrite for you. Okay, so this is it's not super long. I'll try to rush through this. This is a description of our main. Well, he's not a hero. We'll find out.
Okay.
Though a man of 40 summers, he had never yet entertained the thought of yielding up his bacheloric ideas and supplanting them with others which eventually should coincide with those of a different sex. In fact, he had never bestowed a thought on changing his habits and manner of living, nor until fully realizing his position of birthright that had been treasured by his ancestors for such a lengthened period, and which, sooner or later, must pass into strangers' hands, did the thought ever occur to him of entering into the League of the Blessed.
I mean, I'm
I've got to rewrite for it.
Yeah, I won't get ahead of it. I think I could do it in. I think I can do it in 3 words.
Oh, okay, give it to me.
John's an incel. There. I think we get some more information. I'm sort of cheating about that, about his distaste of the fairer sex, but that's pretty much what we're led to believe here.
You beat me by quite a bit. He was 40 years old, a bachelor. He liked being a bachelor.
Okay, yeah. We later learned that there is like a bit more like, distaste, I think, built into it. That was sort of this alarming description of why he isn't married. But I've got one for you.
Okay.
The December sun had hidden its dull rays behind the huge rocks that rose monstrously high west of Dunfern Mansion and ceased to gladden the superb apartment Sir John occupied most part of the day.
The mountains block the sun.
Yes, right. John's apartment was dark.
Okay.
But what he does in this dark apartment of his is an action-packed scene. He's requested a fire be lit so that he may peruse some of his evening papers. So that's where we join the scene in action already. And I thought that the walnuts of Lair of the White Worm are implied. It's amazing. I think. The same way that like a Bollywood movie would be like, well, here's where we have the group dance number type of thing, or like you said before, the James Bond, like here's the chase through the exotic foreign country. This is that type of thing, and these novels of this day, Lair of the White Worm and this just have sitting room scenes in front of fires eating walnuts.
Yeah, if you're going to do a cozy mystery, at some point you're going to start quilting.
Yep.
If you're going to do one of these bastards, you got to sit down in a study with walnuts and port. And so, yeah, we get that. It's very comforting. Mm-hmm. So, and unfortunately, it's not described well. So,
sure,
yeah,
right. If she did describe walnuts, it would be like, a bowl of orbs whose outer shell were as thick as the 40-year-old bachelor's, skin, which he wore to protect him from the fairer sex. I don't know.
Right.
I'm not good at these off the top of my head.
This is a trait she does a few times, but I love this. Lady Dilworth, it may here be mentioned, was never of a very robust nature. I like when books tell you that they're in the process of mentioning something.
Right, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's your job. Just go about it without telling me that you're going to do it.
Right. And
I set it down right here so that you may read it and comprehend it. Like, yep, okay, we're past that.
And it's sort of like the book is gossiping about its own characters. It's like, when I've met new neighbors, they're like, and you didn't hear it from me, but over there, they don't, they don't tend to, their kids don't go to school type of, that sort of thing. Never of a robust nature is pretty funny.
That puts me in mind of the fact I pointed it out to you, and someone on Patreon helpfully pointed it out to me that I wrote fanfic for this book like 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Do you have it ready?
I'll pull it out if we'll do a break or something.
Sure,
but
yeah.
The opening sentence is like very similar to what she does. I was, of course, doing it as a joke, but we'll pull that out for later.
All right. But so I just had this highlighted as a good example sort of what we're struggling with in this book, because John, the 40-year-old bachelor, has been invited to his neighboring castle, which is Dilworth Castle, which is pretty funny. So we've got, what is it, Dilworth and Dunfern.
Dunfern and Dilworth, yes.
So, yeah, it's like Dunder Mifflin or a lesser tier Dilbert character, but it was an invitation from Lord and Lady Dilworth to attend a ball at Dilworth Castle on 22nd Prox, given by them in honor of the. Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe that, I don't know. I copied and pasted this from Gutenberg. Given by them in honor of the marriage of Henry, 5th Marquis of Hillhall, with Ethel, Countess of Maidstone. So, I mean, that's beyond parody, too, if you're doing that. But he wants to go so he can meet a chick there. And the one that he's most intrigued about is especially Irene Iddesleigh, Lord Dilworth's adopted daughter, more generally known as the Southern Beauty, which, seems sort of like a nickname that she would try to get going for herself.
Right. Yes. Nobody's calling you that. Oh, really? I've been hearing it from all the best people who come to, try to break into the rooms that I've kept locked up. The janitor's closet and whatnot. This is speaking of walnuts, report gained ground that Sir John, having quietly crept out of boyhood for a lengthened period, sometimes you wonder whether you copied it from the Gutenberg correctly,
yes,
would end his days harnessed singly, but idle gossip flying at all times kite high. Kite high, you say?
Oh, yes. There we have. Oh, that
scaring
was
those birds, are you?
100% what I thought of.
Yes.
Right. Oh, man. The days of flying a kite to ward off evil birds, we will long for that, I think, by the end of this one. Talk about an action scene.
Action set piece, yeah. Wow.
So he does go to the party, and before he gets to meet Irene, he alluded to this earlier. He takes time to admire a painted portrait, life-size, an admirable production of the well-known artist Pito.
Yes.
I mean, I didn't look further into it, but it was it did seem like it was either a friend of AMR's here, or a Kickstarter backer who paid enough money that he got his name into the book or something.
Yeah, I don't think I looked at Pedo. The name troubles me, but
Yes, right.
I think later there's a pianist or something, or a classical musician that I looked up, because it's like, why does this name suddenly
so specific
insert itself in this?
And was
this
it real?
Thick, sticky prose. It was not.
Okay.
So
Insane.
it was puzzling. It might have been
Insane.
an anagram or something. I don't know. But yeah, just weird.
But so he admires this portrait by the insanely famous artist Pito, and says, not knowing where such an original of perfection and beauty could be found, he resolved to inquire, when opportunity offered, whose portrait it might be. So once again, he has observed a portrait in silence and thought about, well, when it comes up, when there's a good chance, I will ask about whose portrait it is. So we have to catch our breaths, I think, at this point in time.
It's also great to zoom in onto the internal thoughts of someone, and then his thoughts are just like, does anyone think like that? When opportunity would present itself, and I'm not saying, of course, that it is at this particular moment, but should it entertain itself to come before me, I will at that time inquire. Like, come on, man.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is all the records we have of people in this era, so you assume that they're thinking like that instead of him just being like, God, where's the person with the wine? My glass has been empty for 5 minutes and I haven't met a chick yet.
Right.
I was interested about what this meant in terms of, this was also describing the guy who's crept out of boyhood for a lengthened period. Mothers were most fidgety that their daughters should don their costliest gowns and brilliants, as rumor had it that the noble heir to Dunfern estate should honor the assembly with his august presence.
Wow.
So does that mean he's packing? He's like kind of a Milton Berle kind of guy? His august presence is... Do
you think that's an old-timey euphemism?
I mean,
that would change a lot of books. Yeah, that'd be great.
But then Irene shows up. Speaking of an august presence, she stood, an image of perfection and divine beauty, attired in a robe of richest snowy tint, relieved here and there by a few tiny sprigs of the most dainty maidenhair fern, without any ornaments whatsoever, save a diamond necklet of famous sparkling luster and priceless value. So just that's the only ornament that she's,
That's a pretty big reversal from without any ornaments, whatever.
Amazing, yes.
She's wearing the Liz Taylor blue diamond.
Behind the locked door stood no art whatsoever, save Guernica.
Right. So chapter 2 just ends with him meeting her, right?
Yeah, he presses firmly her snowy hand.
Right.
Which I think counts as a sex scene in 1897.
So the plot so far is Sir John went to a party.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And met Irene.
Yes. And
Irene.
Irene, yes.
Yes.
And there's no indication of, I mean, I think he's smitten with her. We don't get anything about her until a little bit later.
Which comes as, we should hold that suspense, because that's amazing.
Right.
But that's all I got for chapter 2.
Yeah, let's get to chapter 3, where I believe it sort of, first thing of note was that he gets another invitation to Castle Dilworth.
Sure.
Here's another just taste of what we're working with. In case you're not reading along, the second effusion of cordiality required neither anxious thought nor prolonged decision how to act, knowing as he did that it would again serve to bring his present thoughts into practice by affording him another opportunity of sharing in the loving looks of one for whom he feared there dwelt a strong inclination on his part to advance his affection.
Oh my God.
So I think that's he accepted the invitation because he was horny.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he's into Irene, so he's like, awooga, I'll be there.
But he's a famous bachelor, so isn't like famous bachelors, don't they, generally like driving around in sports cars at Monte Carlo, like picking up chicks and
Yeah,
so he's just like sitting in his, he's famous. Can you imagine him in here? They're just cracking his walnuts and eating his port. I can't wait.
Yeah, but later, I don't really know where it is, but we get more descriptions of his bachelorhood being some sort of chosen mindset that's like, these broads, they're just all conniving bitches type of thing. Like,
Wow.
We'll get to it, but I think that's more of the Bachelor and less of the George Clooney type of will he ever settle down type of thing.
Right. Okay, here's one of her first. I think this is a big mistake. The evening was very pleasantly and quietly spent, Irene commanding the greater part of his time and attention on account of Lady Dilworth being slightly ailing, whose health, generally speaking, at this period, was not so robust as formerly, and consequently failed to warrant too many callers. Now, hold on a sec. Record scratch here.
Yeah.
We only know one thing about Lady Dilworth.
Is that her
She was never of a very robust nature.
Not robust, yes.
No, that's all we know about her. She's unrobust. And then all of a sudden, she's not as robust as she once was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, is that just meant to make us like clutch our table and like rip our glasses off our face and be like, my God, if she's less robust, like then what are we to make of this? But she seems like she's starting at like, absolute zero in terms of robustness.
But there was a period where she was, I guess, at like 10% robustness. But now she's just like, I just picture her sort of slouching around, like pouring sweat, like,
Right.
I mean, I can maybe get through this party, but, push my chair over there, will you? Oh, God.
Yeah, she's mopping her brow. She's made some investments that haven't turned out well, so she's just some guys are coming to break her legs or something.
She's old Gil.
Yeah. Well, I liked this because this was another sort of action scene, at least as far as this book goes. Before he shows up at the party, Irene stood looking out on the lake beyond the richly draped window, ruminating on the days of her childhood. So that's. I mean, maybe that was just all there was to do in 1897. I don't know.
I mean, I hope we can picture, at least like a snowball hitting someone in the face and like, okay, I'll just ponder that for a second. Yeah, right. Okay, there's my action sequence for me.
Yeah, maybe she's thinking back about, being adopted by the eccentric people. I mean, she could be a C.F. Kane type of backstory here.
Oh, right, yes.
Here's where we get the sort of Lord Incel description here. It says that until now, Sir John was inclined to be prejudiced against the snares and allurements of women, but he strongly resolved to try gradually and abandon every unkind thought harbored in his mind against them. So that's where we get the sort of, he's not just a martini swirling bachelor. He's actively harboring unkind thoughts about women up in his tower.
Fall into their icy traps.
Yeah. So that's it.
This is where she starts hinting, by the way, I think this is right in the same passage, at being a little bit alliterative a la Pappy, and we do not like this, but this is just the start of it. But this whole paragraph is amazing. Leisurely leaning back in his carriage and burying himself in his great and costly cloak, demanded by the night's icy aspect,
yes.
He rolled along towards his home, drowned in sweet thought of the beautiful girl whom he only recently knew, but whose regard for her raged with such rambling anxiety as to convince him of the propriety of making her aware how he meant to play the part of her lover. So if there was ever a ba-boom sentence, Ka-choon! His groin tightened.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
And it's pretty much, the first part of that sentence is, it was cold, as
Yes.
he's, the night's icy aspect.
Oh, boy.
But we also, this is another, speaking of groin tightening and other references to other books, we get this this word, which, my hair stood up on the back of my neck as I read it, because I was like, I've heard this in one of our other books before. Not until the horses dashed up the winding avenue with increased alacrity.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember where that came from? Because we got a couple of them in this first section alone.
Yeah, who used alacrity?
Shadow Moon.
Okay.
George Lucas and I forget what the guy's name was, but that was sort of a flashback moment.
Wow, yeah.
Chris, what was his name? Chris Claremont.
Claremont, yeah.
And then we get more of his more of the lady hating. It says the very thought of his embosomed and anticipated alliance made him nervously happy. He had at last thrown aside the garb of female dislike and patronized that of a warm-hearted lover. Yeah, that's a disturbed man here.
What was he doing for 40 years? Oh, I guess we'll find out. I don't think we do in this particular reading, like exactly what happened to Hugh, right? His dad is Hugh.
Yeah, is Dad Hugh? I guess maybe. I don't recall. There both. Irene had an unfortunate thing to her dad, who also might have been named Hugh.
Okay.
Wait.
Wait.
We'll see what.
All
there's
right.
There some very confusing moments about her lineage, her age. Even I was confused about.
I'm going to go ahead with this because I feel like we'll have plenty of dumb sentences. I had this pegged as a dumb sentence.
Okay.
Keep in mind, this is just a sentence.
Yes.
Perhaps, had Lady Dilworth proved less concerned about the orphan charge she freed from a life of toil, apparently, and instructed her more on the branches of integrity, then the lovely, youthful Irene could have decided more honorably in all cases of questioning, and would have done justice not alone to herself, but to all concerned, but, like many others similarly surrounded with lovers, battling in the war of extremes, and encompassed on all sides with apparent luxuries, she was confident she would someday come off victorious by acting the clever Corinthian.
Oh, yeah.
Period. Huh?
Yeah, there's a listener of ours who does feed these into AI texts predictive generators, and I need to know what was going to happen with these. What does clever Corinthian mean?
I think that is a reference to the First Corinthians, where he says like something like God will destroy the cleverness of the people who think themselves too clever, should be less proud. So I think that's just where it comes from.
Oh. It's not rich Corinthian leather.
Which is hilarious. That's like the Mr. Microphone thing that was never said in the ad.
Really? Well, Mr. Microphone was said. We've covered this.
Yes, that's true.
Hey, good looking. We'll be back for you later. Is actually in there.
It's like that. It's like the thing from the dating game where the host himself dispelled the myth for years that he had ever had the body joke.
Yeah.
And then someone found the tape of it and showed it to him. He's like, well, I guess I was wrong for 30 years.
Well, so what did he say in terms of, instead of rich Corinthian leather?
I think he said fine Corinthian leather. But there's something about
rich
rolling the R, rich Corinthian leather. Anyway, all right.
Well, so we need to pin down what their relationship is, because it takes all sorts of zigs and zags. But here is where it stands at this point in time. Irene did not lead Lady Dilworth to believe that she really cared for Sir John. And when his name cropped up occasionally, she allowed herself to always keep the coast of conversation clear that would likely convict her views most, and managed thereby to deceive the friend who came not a day too soon to her rescue. I don't know who the friend is, but she's not letting her mom believe that she really cares for Sir John. And so in my mind...
Stepmom, her adoptive mom.
Yes.
She's not letting her know that she does not care for her.
That's what's sort of implied there, yes. And so when we get other things of her that I thought meant she liked him, but pretty much she hates him as much as Sir John hated all women before he met her. We learn in chapters to come.
Okay, and she's going to be victorious by acting the clever Corinthian.
Yeah,
so that's
of course.
pretty exciting. Pretty
In
exciting
the role
chapter
of the clever
end.
Corinthian tonight, it will be played by Irene Iddesleigh. Iddesleigh.
Iddesleigh. Oh, who knows? All right.
Let's do chapter 4 because this starts a good trend. I realized at like chapter 5 or 6 or something that she does a very interesting technique when she begins her chapters, and they all...
yes, this is something that this is like the darling chapters of Model Land.
Yes.
You get one of these impenetrable thickets of prose at the beginning, and then it kind of starts the chapter.
It does. But they all, to me, they're like fortune cookie messages. These sort of just ambiguous, things that have no actual meaning that can be sort of interpreted however you want to.
Sure.
And this one has a great finale.
Oh, yes.
When on the eve of glory, whilst brooding over the prospects of a bright and happy future, whilst meditating upon the risky right of justice, there we remain, wanderers on the cloudy surface of mental woe, disappointment and danger, inhabitants of the grim sphere of anticipated imagery, partakers of the poisonous dregs of concocted injustice. Yet such is life. Which I thought was a nice the robot pimp disdainfully thing that you could apply to just undercut any passage of literature, really.
I had it in mind of like a Jason Bateman style reading of "Is it?"
Yeah, right. You know? Yes. Has that ever really come up? Is that how you ever describe things? You know, win some, lose some. You're like, yeah, I can relate to that. Like that's life.
Sure. Here's one. There's just a few of these where I just put this out here, and I beg any listeners to tell me what this means. Irene was an accomplished and clever girl. Okay, I follow. And well able to sustain her hidden regard throughout for one who 4 years previous had been endeavoring to remove the great barrier of position which blocked his path of approach towards her affection. Anyone?
Oh.
She was an accomplished and clever girl. Pretty straightforward.
Yep, I got that.
Able to sustain her hidden regard throughout for one who 4 years previous had been endeavoring to remove the great barrier of position which blocked his path of approach towards her affection.
My God.
I mean, only because we pored over this and now we know. I assume she's talking about her tutor.
Her tutor? Huh.
But that is...
Yeah, I'm just thinking back to 7th grade English, Mrs. Weldon teaching us how to diagram sentences, and she would be like Charlie Day at that board trying to explain in that GIF, she's been up for 48 hours, like her baggy eyes and stuff, trying to explain this sentence. That'd be a good challenge for anyone who's teaching grammar at that level.
That sentence, man, yeah, I'll put that down there are tons of them in this, but that one is amazing. Fog.
I was confused by this, and it made more sense, unfortunately, as we went through, but other listeners wrote in about it too, so I think we've got to address it. She possessed all the qualities, this is Irene, obviously, all the qualities outwardly and features of a highly refined race. All right, settle down.
Yeah.
And when only a girl of 11 summers, when the worthy hand of benevolence, friendship, and love clutched the tiny figures of absolute want, there visibly seemed nothing lacking in appearance, manner, or education to solicit the pity or suspicion of her charitable guardian and protector. So I was extremely confused whether this 40-year-old bachelor had gone to this party and observed an 11-year-old girl. But I think she was adopted when she was 11.
That's what I thought.
Okay,
She was 11 was the adoption age.
It would have changed the game had that been just a detail. And it's not like impossible. Like if she had been 14, there's a chance. But if she's known her tutor for 4 years, maybe. I don't think she's super old here.
My a little detail. This is public knowledge, so it's not a big deal. My brother's ex-wife, her parents were an arranged marriage because they were Indians from Singapore.
Okay.
He was older, And when he met her, she was on the swing at the playground. You are going to marry this girl.
Oh.
Now, that's the normal course of things. So there's nothing unusual about that in that terms. But hearing that from one of your in-laws, yeah, my dad met my mom when she was 8.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I mean, they probably didn't like pull her off the swing and into a wedding.
No, it was just like, this
moment.
this is who you are going to marry. Right, and it turned out, I think they had a happy marriage. So I'm not knocking it. I'm just telling you.
Probably because he gave her a good LOL surprise doll at that moment, and that sealed the deal.
Right after that, moving on, right after that moment, Sir John Dunford's many visits of late to Dilworth Castle. I keep wanting like Dilbert.
It sounds like a euphemism. Like, I'm going to make a visit to Dilworth Castle.
Yeah. Had been creating quite a sensation throughout the quiet corners of costly curiosity. Settle the hell down. Until an announcement appeared in Mac's Society Journal to the following effect. And then it prints the thing. But I was just like, oh man, what else is in Mac's Society Journal? What kind of ads are in there? What's, as you're sitting there eating walnuts, paging through Mac's, what else are you getting?
It does. I mean, it sounds like, when you picture who might be publishing a society journal, a guy named Mac doesn't necessarily leap to your thing. It's like he'd been publishing like a racing forum for the off-track betting parlor. It's like, hey, Mac, you know what you should branch out into? Society. All right, sounds good. What's going on?
Chopping on his cigar, like, Mac, hey, Mac, I'm checking for your society journals. You got nothing. You got girly mags in the lobby.
Hey, I'm working on it here. Hey, I'm working on the latest from Tassel Dilworth, huh? Gotten a rumor about Sir John Dunfern.
There's a lot of locked rooms not even I can get into, all right? I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah, and give me a trifecta on the, the 1-2 out of the Preakness here.
Mac he's wearing those arm garters and writing those things in chalk on the board. Well,
pirate shirt.
His hat is tilted at a jaunty angle.
Right, yeah. He's sending in a guy to break a guy named Hugh's knees because he didn't pay off his latest bet. Anyway, yeah, so that's a pretty funny thing. But they just print in Mac's Society Journal, a marriage is arranged to take place in August between Sir John Dunfern and Irene Iddesleigh, adopted daughter of Lord and Lady Dilworth. So there's zero depictions of their courtship, no dialogue, just thrust right into there.
Yes. I also like that even in... Now, I don't blame this on Mac. I feel like Mac, if he were given his head, would write a more robust version of a marriage announcement. Sure. So I feel like this was just sent in to Mac from our author, who uses the most passive language. A marriage is arranged to take place. Yes. Mac would be like, hey, that bachelor dude who sits around, he hates women and everything? That guy's finally got himself a dame. Right.
Good for him. Good for him. It's like your, have we talked about the infamous headline when you guys started your Timmy Big Hand site? That's what it reminds me of.
Probably not.
What was it?
It had nothing to do with Mystery Science. It was just a story. We were starting a humor site with some of the people from it, and the headline was MST to get website.
Hey, Mac, some of those guys from that puppet show are starting a website. You got to write it up in your society journal.
Right. Yeah, I'm busy. The Preakness isn't over yet.
Yeah. But so it says this notice, no doubt, caused the partakers in drawing room tete-a-tetes to share in the pangs of jealousy with silent resentment. It's like, well, please, Amanda, I had no doubt about that. Like, I immediately read that thing and thought, oh, those drawing room tete-a-tetes are going to be seething. They're gonna tear Mac's Society Journal in half and thrust it into the robust fire.
I wonder what those drawing room tete-a-tetes, when they're all of that causing partakers, is there just like a little slight cough into the hand? Take a look at this.
Well, you don't have to explode at me, sir.
Your outburst is quite unexpected.
Please, yes, departeth my castle. I shall send for you in a fortnight.
That's all I got for Chapter 4.
Let me just scan down here. This is a pretty good line. It says when merriment was at its height and the heat too oppressive to allow much comfort to the corpulent. And I just, I wish that modern forecasts, they have the heat indexed and stuff, but they need a corpulent comfort factor just to let you know how comfort it's going to be outside if you are corpulent.
Oh, yes. No, I did have that. That's right. I have. I did know that as well.
But this is also where you're before leaving the room. I think after they've been married, I guess, and John is looking for his now wife. It says, before leaving the room, he vaguely scanned the throng to catch a glimpse of Irene and failed to notice her amongst the many who danced so gaily to the well-timed tune of the celebrated pianist Charles Woden.
Yes, yes.
So that's the one you said had no actual.
Nope.
Okay, because it's a pretty unique last name.
Yeah, to the well-timed tunes of a pianist would be fine. So it's very odd when the camera zooms in on someone.
Right.
And you're like, well, this has to be a thing. Unless he comes up again. Does she have an affair with Charles Wood? I don't know.
When I searched for Pito, the artist, the well-known artist, he was never mentioned again. So I'm guessing Charles Woden, whose musical touch was always capable of melting the most hardened sinner into moods of mellow softness, or cheering the most downcast and raising their drooping look of sadness to that of high-strung hilarity, might not be mentioned again.
Okay.
But this is where he finds Irene in the company of her tutor, his name is not mentioned at the moment. But I found this hilarious that it says, had the dim lights shewed her proud face to advantage, the ruddy glow of deepest crimson guilt would have manifested itself to a much greater degree. Making multitudinous apologies, etc., she at once joined Sir John. Now you start omitting words? You start
right.
Yada yada at this point in time? Like, how dare you? Ridiculous.
This is a good one. It was at the second of these social gatherings that the first seed of jealousy was sown within the breast of Sir John Dunfern, and which had a tendency to remain until it gradually grew to such a rapid state of maturity as to be rooted, if possible, forever from its dusty bed of ambush. I just think that dusty bed of ambush should, go on a T-shirt so that everyone asks you,
Yeah.
Is that your band?
Right.
Like,
yeah, or if you go to another country and they've just, they like the look of English words and have printed it on there underneath a picture of Rick and Morty or something, that would be a pretty awesome.
Someone's got a tattoo.
Right, says, the Chinese characters that say that.
Dusty bed of ambush.
No, it says free spirit. Like, no.
Says live strong. Oh, it doesn't? Okay. Damn it.
Can we move to chapter 5?
We certainly can. Although, when do you want me to do my Twain challenge for you?
Let's take a break after chapter 5. We'll do Twain challenge, real or fanfic. Just put it all in there.
Okay, sounds great.
Chapter 5's fortune cookie begins thusly: our hopes, when elevated to that standard of ambition which demands unison, may fall asunder like an ancient ruin. Yet such is life.
Well, this whole paragraph is amazing. So the mixed metaphors, I'm sure when you were taking your creative writing, you got scolded for this.
Oh, man.
So we start with an elevated standard of ambition. Okay. Standard flag. So elevating the flag. Okay. Demands unison may fall asunder like an ancient ruin. Okay. So, I guess if the flag was on top of an ancient ruin.
Tips over, yeah. I don't know.
They are no longer fit for construction unless on an approved principle. I have no idea what that means.
Like permit, so you haven't got your principle approved by the city permitting office.
That could be. That's the best explanation. They smolder away like the ashes of burnt embers. Okay, now they're ashes, but they're also embers.
Well,
Two
burnt
different
embers,
things.
Please, it's there are many embers we encounter in our days that are not burnt.
But they're smoldering though. So embers actively smolder. Ashes, well, whatever.
Sure.
And are cast outwardly from their confined abode. So who's casting the ashes, which are also a flag and are also ancient ruins and also require an approved principle? That's passive language. They are cast outwardly.
Crap.
never more to be found, where once they existed only as smoldering serpents of scorned pride.
Wow.
So the ashes are now a serpent, and they were a flag, and they were ruins.
Were they smoldering twice?
They were smoldering twice.
Okay, good.
They're smoldering twice, Jerry.
No, you can't double smolder. Wow. What a house of cards.
Yeah, a lot of red pen on that sentence for me.
Man, and then for her to, to get wind that Mark Twain is yucking it up reading this, and to be like, that jealous dick. Like,
yeah. He just wants to bang me.
Yeah. to like, she probably picks up Huck Finn and starts like trying to find like examples of him using smoldering twice in a sentence. It's like, well, he didn't do that, but still, I think this is pretty, well, he's not getting a piece of this.
Oh man! All right.
So I think at this point, John goes like looking for her. He's jealous. I think we get like an entire paragraph to convey that he's jealous. And he goes looking for her and stumbles into her summer house where she's holding a sheet of music like that.
Yeah. This is the grounds are big enough, so he's like hands in pocket, kicking the dirt, like where's Irene?
Yeah.
And he hears music. And he wanders over, and then there's like this gorgeous summer house with, I assume, a piano in it. It is called, boldly moving towards the spot whence the sound of music issued.
Nice.
My God, rewrite that. How delightfully surprised was he to find a magnificently constructed little summer house, a charming pyramidal Gothic structure, that doesn't sound so little, robed internally with mossy mantles of nature, and brightened beyond conception with the instrument of humanity which gave origin to such pathetic and sweetened strains.
God. Makes the music
You mean
of
the
Charles
piano?
Woden sound like trash.
Yes. But the instrument of humanity, I mean, right. my groin's tightening over that.
It's like, really? Of all humanity, it has to be one of the later instruments that was invented.
But it doesn't actually say whether it's. I mean, I guess it could be a clavichord or a harpsichord or it could be anything.
I assumed that the tutor was a music teacher. She's holding this thing and practicing it here.
I guess so. But tutor usually would be tutoring in more than one thing.
Just generally her life coach.
Yeah,
but
I guess
he's got to be like, hey, this Gothic pyramid here. This is like the nicest room in your house. You got to keep this locked.
That's right.
I just stumbled in here. I was wandering the grounds. This is not how it works in this. Maybe this is how you do things in Castle Dilworth, but yeah, you're over in Dunfern now. So
I'm gonna shoot over to Mac really quick and get him a little hot goss, and then I'll be back here.
Right? Yeah. And it says, well, this was something that I just sort of took objection to. It is now only about a score of days until I hoped forever to call you mine, a hope which unmercifully has haunted me since I fortunately gazed on your lovely face, a hope which I trusted should be fully appreciated by both you and me, and which, I now must own, can never be realized until the clearance of the barrier that since our engagement has become too apparent. And I just said, nah, absolutely nothing in this book is too apparent. Like, it's too apparent that she was like using a thesaurus or trying to rip off, a better writer, but like nothing else that you have to like reread these sentences 4 times to get them is too apparent.
I think that this speech, this is the first of this.
Their dialogue?
It comes as a little bit shocking out of nowhere that she begins speaking, right? Because we just haven't, it's all been internal and completely, obviously, just, wholly stuck up with this terrible prose. Mm-hmm. But I think we're meant to believe she's sitting on a piano bench, and he comes in and, takes off his, top hat or whatever, and crushes it down flat and puts it on his lap and sits sort of uncomfortably on the edge of a divan, I guess, while she sits on the piano bench and unleashes a string of 12 paragraphs?
Yes.
Of just like, I have endeavored to say to you, I assure you your allusion to my verbal answer last night is very pronounced and he must just be like his eyes growing wide as saucers, like, holy God, what have I gotten myself into?
Right. Yeah. Had not heard her talk yet. This is...
That's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
This is going to be our, she's taking off her false eyelashes at night kind of a thing and putting cold cream on her face. I'm going to get this kind of bullshit.
Yes. Yeah, and the whole speech was preceded by her raising her hazel eyes to him and clearing the weft of truth that had been mixing with the warp of falsehood to form an answer of plausible texture fringed with different shades of love. She thus began. Weft, new to me, new to you?
First thing that comes to mind is Buffalo Wild Wings and Weft.
Yes.
Isn't that the bread that they used to have?
Yeah, Kennewick, I think, is the upstate New York bread. But this is a crosswise threads on a loom over and under which other threads, the warp, are passed to make cloth. So maybe this was a well-known thing back in 1897, but you don't encounter too many wefts out in the world these days.
It reminds me of the, I had to dive to the dictionary when I was reading Moby Dick, because when he shares a bed with Queequeg, and they both become irritated because one will pull the counterpane off from the other person.
Okay.
Counterpane.
Sure.
It's just a blanket.
It's a cover. Yeah. At least you get some context there. Like,
I'd never heard of that one before. Counterpane. It just does not, you try to picture what it might be in total ignorance. I don't think you'd ever get there.
No, yeah, there's nothing in that word that gives you that thing. Although it's good to know that like that sitcom gag has existed,
Yes.
Laurel and Hardy doing that, or a road trip movie, Robert De Niro and Zac Efron and Dirty Grandpa pulling the blankets off each other.
Right. All right, what else you got for that? Is that chapter 5?
Yeah, I mean, it ends with, I'll just read it and then we can take a break. At the commencement of Irene's answer of lavishing praises and flimsy apologies, her affianced moved to the opposite corner of the rustic building to scan the features of her he wholly worshipped and reluctantly doubted. Every sentence the able and beautiful girl uttered caused Sir John to shift his apparently uncomfortable person nearer and nearer, watching at the same time minutely the divine picture of innocence, until at last, when her reply was ended, he found himself, altogether unconsciously, clasping her to his bosom, whilst the ruby rims which so recently proclaimed accusations and innocence met with unearthly sweetness, chasing every fault over the hills of doubt, until hidden in the hollow of immediate hate.
Wow.
He did what now? So I think he smooches her, but
I think he smooches her, but who's hidden in the hollow of immediate hate?
I don't know what the hell. Maybe he's just burying his earlier suspicion in this kiss or something. I don't know, but man, it's very funny that at the commencement of her answer, he starts moving to the opposite corner. So it's like he must really take his time getting there at these, because they do speak for dozens of uninterrupted paragraphs.
Yeah, I mean, they must have been doing the game where, like, she closes her eyes for 1 second and he moves before she catches him. So, like, are you a little closer than you were before I blinked?
Red light, green light.
Wow, Sir John. I don't know, man. I think get out, man. Your bachelorhood was good. You had all the walnuts you could eat. This is not good.
Yeah, I think they could both take a mulligan. Neither one seems happy, and as we will learn soon, it doesn't work out well for her adopted parents either. So,
puzzling why that happens, but we'll get into it.
Yes.
The Dilfords, the
Dilworths,
Difford and Tilbrook, Dilfords, whatever. They take a turn, but that's for later.
Yep. Let's do some of our other departments.
Okay, this is a new department.
Gonna work.
Based on the fact that you have no respect for Mark Twain, or little respect.
I would not piss on him if he was on fire.
Wow, that's very little respect. Fortunately, he has been cast away by the glowing, smoldering fires of the doom of Twain. I don't know.
Yes, his obituary was published in Mac's Society Journal.
Certainly.
Then he said reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated, so Mac had to issue a correction.
That's right. I don't see why it's so hard to quit smoking. I've done it a dozen times. Come on, that's a pretty good one.
That's good.
All right, so here's the challenge is just to maybe convince you that there's something funny about Mark Twain.
Okay, Sarah.
But what I want to do, because I can't just read it, because you could easily just go, well, I don't find that funny, and stonewall me. Okay, well, that's fine. But just to increase the honesty, what I want to do is I also, my son, for my birthday, tore out a page from his, I think his wife's grandfather, something gave him the Playboy Party Jokes book.
Oh, dear.
I'm sure that was just as a joke that he gave it to him. So these are really old, so they're not like dirty. They're just sort of weirdly bawdy and confusing generally. but what I want to do is read one of those just to sort of calibrate things. You know, like when you're doing a test of something, you want to have something bad so that people don't rate what could be an excellent thing as bad. At least you have some baseline.
Okay, yeah, but this is not real or fanfic. You're not going to tell me.
There's no way. I don't think there's any way to disguise a Mark Twain joke. And so it's not double blind. It's not even single blind. So, but here's the joke. This is it in its entirety from page 182 of Party Jokes. When the struggling stenographer quits struggling, she often discovers she doesn't have to be a stenographer. All right. So, I picked it at random.
Man,
I just read it up.
That would you'd hear a record scratch from the famous celebrated pianist Charles Woden if you told that at one of the parties. Okay, I feel like there's something untoward going on in that, but
Sir John being, the bawdy bachelor that he is, sort of tilts his head and does wiggles his eyebrows, and people are like, I don't know. Has
stenography been invented yet? I don't know.
What is a stenographer? And how do we get into that room over there? Okay, now here's Twain. This is from his an essay. And keep in mind, a humorous essay.
Yeah.
I've written humorous essays. Not everyone is going to be. But I thought this was kind of funny. This is an essay on the German language. Okay? Very short quote by him. This is Twain. Every noun has a gender. In German, a young lady has no sex, while a turnip has. Think what overwrought reverence that shows for the turnip and what callous disrespect for the girl. See how it looks in print. I translate this from a conversation in one of the best German Sunday school books. Gretchen. Wilhelm, where is the turnip? Wilhelm. She has gone to the kitchen. Gretchen. Where is the accomplished and beautiful English maiden? Wilhelm. It has gone to the opera.
Okay, that's funny. I mean, turnip, very funny. Probably our funniest vegetable. So the fact that he acknowledges that is a credit to him. And so Wilhelm also pretty funny too.
Wilhelm and Gretchen and a little play in the middle of it. It's it's got a modern ring to it.
Yeah, I like it. It was good. I mean, okay. I mean, good. Funnier than the stenographer joke for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, it's your turn to challenge me.
Okay. Well, we're gonna do real or fanfic.
And now I bet they bitching 'cause my flow switching, trying to tell me what to write. I bought some fan fiction. Can't they just be happy? I no longer.
Here we are with fanfic from our listeners, many of whom are Patreon supporters, who got the word of this new book earlier than everybody else, and just fanfic was coming in within hours of us announcing this. So people were...
I think it is juicy and ripe for it. I have very low confidence in this one because you can just string adjectives together, and if there's an old-timey word in there, I'm going to bite. Yeah. So I'm doomed.
People had a lot of fun. We got a lot that we, more than we could use for sure. So keep sending them in. We appreciate everyone who did. But we have 5 excerpts that are either from later in Irene, Iddesleigh, or fanfic written by our Patreon supporters. So let's get started. Here's number 1. That dreary and deciduous affection Sir John had once supposed he had possessed for Irene had at last shed the last of its foliage. Once verdant, then flaxen, then cuprous, before disembarking its wizened branch to be carried away on the winds of autumnal abhorrence, and in that terrible disposition found his ever justified by low feminine cunning, acrimony made manifest as his august extremities wound about Lady Dunfern's snowy throat, crying out, I, patient as the firmament of the Temple Mount awaiting the last judgment, whose affection found its limit never in all that we have shared, can find no reconjunction of my heart with one belonging to Otwell's orphan, nor can I, in earnest response, fail to redeem my red-toothed wrath in recompense of the ruin of my renowned reputation that is your remittance.
I very much like it. I'm pretty convinced it's fanfic, but it's got all the hallmarks.
All right. Here's number 2. Stumbling, tumbling, Irene fled forth without reservation or the faintest misgivings in her heart, nor in the place where her most secret thoughts were stashed away. For not a soul to see, nor reach one's hand of out and offer prayers of comfort and succor to her, her mind's deepest and most remote recesses. The tormented lady did hold in trembling hand that which she had pilfered from the heavy and well-worn oak bureau of Lady Natalie of Cackle Green, before making her unannounced and flighty fugue from Wolsey's keep, a crude writing implement and ledger meant to document the expenses of living and the comings and goings of guineas from the estate's coffers, not never to document the lamentations of betrayal by the woman who strode brusquely down the path of depravity, both at her own behest and at the urgings of the agents of perfidy and the most outrageous vice. The flight of the feminine foil of Job carried her beneath the boughs of a mighty oak, standing tall against the withering rays of all-encompassing Mother Time, and under its robust trunk Irene ceased and tarried and shrunk, taking a meager moment to scrawl the words, etched by tragedy and tumult, on the vasculature of her heart, unto her very soul.
Points for perfidy, points for yet another sort of a biblical reference that is disjointed and crammed in. So points for it, but I'm going to say fanfic.
Okay. Number 3. How purblind he had been. Far greater than Sir John had envisaged was his wife's infidelity. Her dazzling diamond necklet, which like a gentle hand caressed her snowy décolletage, upon that inauspicious occasion when their fates first intertwined, and again on the day when she vowed to honor him until they should be rent apart by the ghastly, chill touch of death, testified to her fornication. The velvety drawer of her jewel case, which housed the collection of glistening prisms, had a false bottom, beneath which he found not proper epistles professing innocent adoration, such as those his wife received from her tutor. Rather, these clandestine communiques resembled but scraps of paper that seemed only narrowly to have escaped their fate as fireplace kindling, and upon them were feverishly scrawled declarations of debauched lust and carnal yearning between Irene and he who gifted her the necklet.
Pianist Charles Woden. No, tutor. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to say that's fanfic as well.
All right. Let's see, number 4. It was now that the heated passion of youth's folly became abated, as Oscar was beginning to near his purse's wrinkled bottom, and failing in his strenuous efforts to secure a tutorship, was smartly made to feel that he must visit a land of strangers, where height of ability and depth of character were alike unquestioned. It was at this stage, too, that Lady Dunfern was made to taste of the dish of fanciful wish in which she often dipped her slender fingers to sprinkle her body of dishonesty. She got time now to brood over her actions of silly execution and hatch them with heated hunger. The orphan, the pampered, the honored, was at this point the deluded, the mocked, the hungered.
Wow, so dangling the bait of slender fingers out there. Oh, I don't know. I'm going to say fanfic.
Okay. And finally, number 5. It is against this melancholy and mirthless tableau that Lady Dunfern, reflecting upon seemingly innocent yet ruthlessly subjugating fetters arising from an act of charity bestowed through the tenderness of Lady Dilworth, resolved for a second time in so many days to hide within the hedge erected around her heart the yearning she felt for a family and home which were no more to be. Yet she soon found herself ineluctably approaching on quietly determined foot the sprawling arrangement of hewn wood-sided buildings serving as the Dunfern stables, tucked as they were in a little dale behind the imposing manor house. Surprised to see the lady of the estate appear at so rare an hour, the sleepy stable boy nonetheless responded to her request for a mount with no hint towards a suspicion of portents within these arising events. As the morning fog seemed to cherish her and close a protective hand behind her, Irene urged her steed, a golden and white dappled mare of excellent musculature and Spanish temperament, away from the immurement of Dunfern Manor and on towards the remembrance of liberty embodied by Castle Dilworth. The rising dread regarding what she might find upon arrival pressed its way into her mind, kneading each successive thought into an increasingly colliginous blur.
Colliginous. Isn't that The Wizard of Oz? You clinking, clanking, clattering collection of colliginous junk?
It is. And it means misty, dim, obscure, dark.
Oh, wow. Okay. This is a challenge. Man, are they all fanfic? Are they all? Well, look, I'm going to say that one's real.
Okay. All right. You came out of the gate hot, but stumbled towards the end. Let's review. Number one was the I didn't even know how to describe these. Temple Mount awaiting the last judgment. Cuprous disembarking its wizened branch to carry away on the winds of autumnal abhorrence.
I felt like there was deciduous was there, and so then there was like autumnal. So it's like, well, deciduous don't lose their. So I don't know.
Okay. I could have tipped the hand. Irene is known to be an arborist. So that was, you said fanfic, that was fanfic written by Perry.
Okay. Yeah.
Number two, well-worn oak bureau of Lady Natalie of Cackle Green. Something about Job, I think, was this one.
Yes.
You said fanfic. That was fanfic written by Jenk Mel or Jen K. Mel. I'm not sure. So 2 for 2. Number three, this was how purblind he had been, the gift of the necklace, clandestine communiques, dazzling diamond necklet. You said fanfic. That was fanfic written by Aaron.
Okay.
Oh, that was the scraps of paper that had erotic communiques.
Yeah, naughty things.
Number four, this was the one with Oscar trying to find a new job, it sounded like, dipping her slender fingers to sprinkle her body of dishonesty. You said fanfic. That was real.
Oh, come on.
Submitted by
what is the hand thing?
2 different people, Eric and Jens. I think they both went looking to see if there was how embarrassing. It's the Red Cross again. It's not.
This is your blood drive again?
It's not. I'm just going to decline and turn off my phone, which I thought I had done. Yes, but yeah, Eric and Jen submitted that. I think they went control effing for fingers, and remarkably, yet again, it turned up.
What in the heck? Why?
It is the mystery of our time.
Someone, at least we have to figure out the timeline of who put the hands in and who copied who.
Right.
And, who's the progenitor of this.
Maybe like the Cleopatra was described as having, long, slender figures, and that's where it all sprung from.
Yeah. And
then number 5, that was the excellent, dappled mare of excellent musculature and Spanish temperament. Going to the stable boy. You said real. That was fanfic, unfortunately, written by Chap. And so, 3 out of 5, which I think, better than you could have hoped for. So,
yeah, that's pretty much my, that's where I'm sitting right. Well, no, I'm below that.
60%. I think 60. I think 58 might have been your thing. Based on the last one. So again, you're raising that batting average, point by point.
All right, not bad, but good fan fiction. It seems like people do enjoy diving into the world. Of old timey. Thick prose.
Yeah. What's the bad writing contest that they do every year, based on the Dark and Stormy Night guy? The Bulwer Lytton fiction contest.
Oh, okay.
People are, I think, maybe coming up with some potential entries for that in the future.
I've mentioned it before. I tried to find it. I could not. It's just an essay that I had to read in college, and it was just called Obfuscatory Scrivenery, which just means foggy writing, and it had a bunch of things rewritten in the style that we're doing.
Oh, wow.
Where it's like, just don't do this. There's no reason in communication to lard this stuff up. But it's a very funny and clarifying thing. Hopefully, I'll find it before this book is done. Yeah.
Well, chapter 6 starts with the fortune cookie of the silvery touch of fortune is too often guilt with betrayal.
The meddling mouth of extravagance swallows every desire. and eats the heart of honesty with pickled pride.
Wow.
The impostury of position, which I did not look up, is petty and ends as it should commence with stirring strife. So she's picked up the alliteration, and I am not a fan.
Yeah, it sort of like wormed its way in halfway here, and it really starts to make itself super prominent as we keep reading.
Yeah.
But she sort of started with a thought there that's like, the silvery touch of fortune is too often guilt with betrayal. Like, okay, sure, like you're riding high now, but that might come as you get bigger. People try to tear you down. But then she starts pickling pride and stuff. Like,
I know. It doesn't. Do you think she was trying with each opening, as in fortune cookie, but more to be, like neither a borrower nor a lender be, or proverbs or something, like she was trying to
make something people would quote in the future?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think she was doing anything other than trying to write in her what she thought a good book would be. So that probably is just like, oh, they're going to be saying this one in 200 years.
That's right. Man, I have a lot of dumb sentences here. Okay, so here we get to the meat of it. This was the thing I think we referenced at the beginning. Indeed, Lord and Lady Dilworth were wholly ignorant of the present state of affairs, nor did Irene reveal at any time to Lady Dilworth her great hatred for Sir John, or her maddened desire to become the wife of a poor tutor. Now, for me, that was a little bit of a, wait, what? Oh, I skipped chapter 5? Is that what
right.
Like, no, this is just suddenly out there.
Yes.
I mean, the tutor could not have been guessed at. I mean, maybe the word was said once before or something, or I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he when he walked along, and found her like talking to him, just based on knowing how these books work, if you find someone in the company of someone, like, that's not going to be just an insignificant detail. But then when she was monologuing at the start of this thing and starts to say it's 7 more days before I shall see my own darling Os, and then is interrupted by the breakfast bell, and you later learn that his tutor's name is Oscar, but it's a very off-putting thing to see in real time there.
Oh, I read that and thought she was like starting to say the word "oh," or I had no idea what
spaghetti
that meant.
O's. Yeah.
Yes. Wow. Okay.
But yeah, the breakfast bell summoned her, and this was a great sentence that called to mind another author as well. Dressing herself with frantic expertness, she dashed down the winding staircase with an alacrity better imagined than described. Oh, okay, Irene. Like but it pretty much is how Ernest Cline, ended the Prince battle in Ready Player 2. Yeah, it's hard to even say what happened there, but when I came to, I defeated them all.
Alacrity and perfidy and whatever, and then they were dead. Okay.
But yeah, the hatred, that's just sort of it comes out of the blue. It's it's a good old Charlie Brown, how I hate him type of thing. Like, what did he do? Like, she just, maybe she got word about his distaste for women or something from someone else he had gone on a date with, but...
I kept thinking Clooney, and maybe he just was playing those practical jokes, and she was just like, God, I hate that. Yeah. Those are not funny. Right. It's like morning DJ humor. I hate it.
Right. He hit the one ornament that is a priceless diamond with a pearl center, but
yes. Here's my stop the man on the street and explain what this means. You ready? Mm-hmm. And although he was the first to whom Lady Dilworth addressed an invitation, still there was no reply, much to the annoyance and astonishment of hostess on the one hand, and knowledge of Irene on the other, as, verily, it was not unknown to Irene that absolute indifference to facts, seemingly of domestic importance, was a positive point in Oscar, and never better exemplified than in the present existing state of affairs, which, sickly as it proved to Irene, was deadly so to Oscar.
Good God.
Anyone?
No,
Anyone.
It's even harder to sometimes it's even harder to hear it read aloud because you're trying to keep track of threads of it that just they leap around like synapses.
I literally have no idea what that means. I'm sure there's probably a way to penetrate the prose and go, oh, she probably means this, but I have no idea, and there's no reason to guess. So Anyway.
Well, yeah, the tutor is Oscar Otwell, and that we get his full name here. It's revealed that he has, even though she's been sent enough wedding gifts to make a princess stare with startling bewilderment, none have come from her tutor. Which, you know, he sounds like a Spider-Man villain or something like that. You would not get involved with a guy named Oscar Otwell, because in this era you would have then been Miss Oscar Otwell or whatever, and that's no good.
No,
for
especially
the Southern Beauty, like.
Yeah, there's a K in Oscar, so that's even more menacing. Right.
Yeah. But here's where I had the description of comparing this to an actual like Victorian classic. This is from Irene. Love, alas, when smitten with the sword of indifference, dieth soon. But once struck on the tunneled cheek of secrecy with the hand of pity, there leaves a scar of indelible intolerance until wiped out forever with the curative balsam of battled freedom. So, I mean, that sounds exactly like the fanfics we just read.
Yes.
But here's a picture, a paragraph from Pamela or Virtue Rewarded by Samuel Richardson. And I believe I've talked about this one. This is the book that stands out for me as just being the class that I took probably like senior year of college, where I was just like, my God, like I need to get out of here. So here's they wanted us to read it in like a week. It's as hard to read as this. Oh, said he, what pleasure you give me in this sweet foretaste of my happiness. I will now defy the saucy, busy censurers of the world, and bid them know your excellence and my happiness, before they, with unhallowed lips, presume to judge of my actions and your merit. And let me tell you, my Pamela, that I can add my hopes of a still more pleasing amusement, and what your bashful modesty would not permit you to hint, and which I will no otherwise touch upon, lest it should seem to your nicety to detract from the present purity of my good intentions, than to say, I hope to have superaddled to all these such as employment as will give me a view of perpetuating my happy prospects and my family at the same time, of which I am almost the only male. So, like,
I'm calling that fanfic.
yeah, right. Like, I mean, maybe you're. I don't think that that's supposed to be funny because it's like 600 pages long of that. So it's not a Mark Twain essay trying to like poke fun at this type of garbage. But
no, that's amazing.
I'm serving
That's
you
from
up,
what,
Samuel
like
Richardson. Your book is trash.
1700s?
Yeah,
are we talking?
So. I think. Yeah, Pamela Samuel Richardson.
Here's a great thing that
1740.
1740. All right, you should have learned by then.
Pre-revolution.
Earlier. Yeah. This could have appeared in Mac's journal. We'll see, Society Journal. But the question here is, why is this one paragraph? This is pretty great. The intense excitement that for weeks before had found such refuge within their cherished and much beloved home had not long now to live. It would die on the doorstep of apparent bereavement, never more to appear within Dilworth Castle under similar circumstances. They knew well that the gnawing jaws of poverty, which for years had failed to expose their grinding power, had reached the last and only bite of sudden termination, and thereby stamped their marks of melancholy so impressively upon the noble brows of the worthy owners of Dilworth Castle that time could never blot them from their observation. As before stated, few were those invited to be present at the wedding ceremony, which was to take place at about 12 noon. So really, like, blah, 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 blah. It's a small wedding at noon.
Right, yes.
All in the same paragraph. That one, like, was a kind of laugh out loud moment.
Yeah, with the whiplash at the end. Yeah, he really is. Lord Dilworth is old Gil. He's on the brink of financial ruin, but he's gritting through it to sort of throw a small and intimate wedding for his beloved adopted daughter.
Right. And then, I mean, it's coming up, so we'll get to it. But they, so how does it ruin them? Well, let's save it.
For later, we got to get to it.
Fun. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you a question here. It may interest some to know that Irene silently and secretly resolved not to array herself in white. Could you count yourself among the some there?
I don't count myself among the interested. I'm still trying every doorknob, and a lot of them are locked.
Right. Yeah, it's like who was it in The Great Gatsby? Owl Eyes, where I think Nick stumbles upon him, like he's been drunk for 3 days in a library.
Oh,
like,
right.
All these books are fake type of deal. I guess
Yeah.
that's Gatsby should have been locking the doors to those interesting rooms.
Yes.
She was reconciled that neither the marriage robe of purity nor the too beaming wedding face was to appear before such devout and reverential church dignitaries as the Bishop of Barelegs and Canon Foot.
I did not bother to look that up.
or-
I was so confused by that. Like, I think were those her derogatory names for these guys? And she's like, she's a bit of a free spirit, and so she calls him Bishop of Barelegs and Cannon Foot.
And it's like canon, like, Canon. I don't know. In reading about her in her third book, she named all the characters like after fruits or something. So I think she's been known to have a go with some character names. So we'll be.
Are you laughing?
I'm not laughing with it. That's for sure.
Okay. Well, so it seems like a good wedding, but this was a bit of a shock because it was 12 o'clock noon, right? The wedding.
Yes.
And how much does
about 12 o'clock noon?
Right. This would have been a traditional wedding, and I guess if there's a bishop there or something, I'm sure they were, serving mass. And you've been to a Catholic wedding; they're an hour and a half or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Born under a lucky star was the whispered echo throughout the distinguished guests who sat down to breakfast after the junction of opposites. So egg and bacon, microwave sausage patties.
They've got those things you twist to let the cereal out, the big urns of Apple Jacks.
Yes. There is an omelet station. That's how fancy this is.
Lord Dilworth is like looking at people like, getting, asking for extra bacon, being like, oh no, like the margins are so thin here.
Yes.
God.
Oh, that cracked me up, but I guess that's what they call it. So
sure, yeah. Bishop of
Barelegs. Want to make fun of old time.
Putting away the Jimmy Dean.
Yes.
But this is I think this is Lady Dilworth was so shocked by Irene refusing to wear the dress they had picked out that she refuses to hug her daughter. Did Lady Dunfern ever dream that her apology for disobedience to Lady Dilworth's orders in not arraying herself in the garb of glistening glory could ever be accepted, even by the kind and loving Lady Dilworth? I don't know. I don't know a lot about these characters. It's your story. Like, fill us in with some of these motivations here. God.
Now, what if she wore something that was green or something?
Yeah, I think
was
so.
just so.
Yeah. But the traditional reason for not wearing white, right, is that this is not your first rodeo, right? So,
yes.
But she's just not doing it because she's sort of being petulant here about not wanting to marry this guy.
Mom, I'm not wearing the garb of glistening glory.
You put on that garb of glistening glory. Do you have any idea how much Lord Dunfern, your adopted father, spent on that thing? He's going to lose one of his 3 properties.
He is busy getting those tins with the little fire underneath them to hold the sausage trays in place.
He should have hired caterers, Mom. That's not his job.
The one where the lid, like, instead of having to take the lid off and set it next to it, you actually just tilt the little gold handle up, and then there's the...
I'm not into catering. I've never worked in this. What, are you talking about sterno?
Your father has tongs for every single stainless steel pan that people are going to be picking their sausage and eggs out of. By the way, we have powdered eggs. I forgot to tell you that earlier.
Oh, my God, Dad. That's because he lost all that money down at Max OTB.
I like the ponies, okay?
I didn't even know you were part of this conversation, Dad.
He's keeping one eye on the bacon tray. It's just barely into this thing. Yeah, amazing.
But that the ruin, I believe, happens in the next chapter, chapter 7. We might as well get to it, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Chapter 7 starts with the fortune cookie of distant shores have great attractions and large expectations.
And then she does a little, the roughly constructed huts and lofty homes of honest industry. Mm-hmm. Which maybe that's alliteration when you were old-timey. Did you say honest? I don't know. I don't know.
Right. Does alliteration work that way?
I don't know. Does it in print or is it a sound?
This is back when, sure. People were still probably hearing a lot of works read out loud, right? There was,
Right.
But they say that we quickly transition into the survey of Lord Dilworth's real estate portfolio.
Oh, this is amazing.
So
I love this.
He has Castle Dilworth. Then he has the Airtown estate. Then he has the Howden estate, which, amusingly enough, for Riff Tracks fans, includes something called Blandford Castle.
Yes.
Ned Blandford.
And Lauderdale Lodge. Both exquisite constructions of architecture and skilled workmanship, and occupied respectively, because you were wondering, you're like, you hear, wait, Howden estate, okay, how many buildings are there on it? Oh, hang on. There's Blandford Castle and there's Lauderdale Lodge. Okay. Who's living there? Yeah. Well, it's Sir Sidney Hector and Admiral Charles Depew. So I immediately, when I saw those, I'm like, if this book does not turn into the story of Sir Sidney Hector and Admiral Charles Depew eating walnuts, I'm throwing it across the room.
I'm picturing them as like Sir Toby Belch and Andrew Aguecheek in Twelfth Night. They're like the one's fat, one's really tall and thin type of guys up to misadventures.
By far more interesting than the main story, yes.
They're freeloading, squatting over in Blandford Castle.
It's like, Caddyshack was supposed to be a movie about that golfing kid and his new bride, and suddenly it's just like...
Groundskeeper and the gopher.
Yes.
Yeah, Charles Depew. Hey, everybody, we're going to get laid.
Hey, what, are you get a free bowl of soup in that castle? Hey.
But it's not all humorous, because it informs us that these estates became so heavily mortgaged that prompt sale was indispensable. I don't no real follow up on that. We're just told that he's in over his head, and then this has struck me as odd, and many listeners emailed in about this as well. They sell off these castles very quickly, and it says bidders were numerous and offers low. So this auction they do defies all notions of capitalism and free market and how auctions work.
Yeah, they're described as glorious places, but old Lord Dilford, buy high, sell low is not a good.
Yeah, sir, we received an offer for 10% of the castle's worth. Oh, take it. Well, no, sir. There's numerous offers, and obviously they're going to increase only from here on out.
And also, you can, you could live in it while you keep it on the market. There's no real reason to fly off the handle and just sell them all. Like, I just had a wedding at which there was bacon. Do you not understand how much I'm in over my head?
Say no more, sir. And this, obviously, as in 1897, I understand how bacon is the utmost luxury of all foods you could have possibly served at your wedding. And I would have advised against it had you consulted with me. But
well, where were you when I was making the menu?
I was in Blandford Castle with Sir Depew, actually. He is.
Yes.
He was. Boy, he could put him away. He does an impression of Pito that you've got to see.
Oh wow! So all right, so that's what that was a bit of impenetrable prose about just describing how he was ruined.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, let me just give it to you, because it's like,
okay,
talk about kicking a man while he's down. Thus were wrested from Lord and Lady Dilworth their luxurious living. They were driven from the nursery of rich and complicated comforts, their castle of indolence and ease. They were now thrown upon the shivering waters of want, without a word of sympathy in the dreadful hour of their great affliction, without home or friend to extend shelter or sustenance, and cast afloat upon the ocean of oscillating chance to speed across it as best they could. We get it! They're penniless.
Right. Wow. Okay. So yeah, they. I like the no friends thing.
Yeah.
Though.
Right. Yeah.
That's a very they were described as pretty. I mean, there wasn't a lot of description of them, but they were pretty decent people, right?
Yeah. They were given parties, like all sorts of. They were sort of given like coming out debutante balls. It sounded like so. They had a castle, like and they were described as having rescued this girl from a terrible situation. So they seemed kindly, but it happens. It says. They gave a ball in honor of Irene's marriage, should heir 4 days be a penniless pauper. So it really was just like they sent the guys over to pretty much give them the heave-ho and start moving out the furniture.
Yeah, they had the clubs, like, don't make me bust that knee, This struck me as perhaps a pale imitation, again, of Dickens. I don't know. Have you ever read Nicholas Nickleby?
No.
His beloved family is broken apart when his dad is wonderful, but they live not in poverty, but they live in the country or something. And then there's a famous line that's like, and, you know, the father who he loved so much, who had never before speculated. And that's like, he lost everything that he had to his brother-in-law who like chiseled it, or I think it's his brother. So, but anyway, that's what it strikes me as. It's like, you know, where Dickens did it with economy and humor. This is like 3 paragraphs of, wait, what?
Yeah, unsure how he got over mortgaged.
Yeah.
But this whole also happens. It's like Sir John and Lady Dunfern went on their honeymoon. Is how this all goes down, right?
They went to. Well, we get that, right?
Yeah, we get it eventually. They go away for 4 weeks.
Right.
So like, and yeah, it says they went to Florence because it says she was rather more taciturn on the night of her return than even during her stay in Florence.
And that even more so.
So I don't know if that's supposed to be a joke, or just referring to a passage, you know, evening in Florence, cut for time.
Yes. Well, then it comes to, so we get an actual piece of dialogue here. Well, monologue.
Sure. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Oh no, there is dialogue if I look down.
And it's dialogue if you count as speaking for a page and a half, and then someone else speaking for a page and a half.
But it's curious monologue / dialogue, smaller on the dialogue, that I dove to the dark web.
Oh, well, yeah, because the whole book is available for free on Project Gutenberg.
Yes, and it has sprung up entire communities.
Oh, see, this is what they talk about when you say, like, having a work in the public domain inspires, like, remixing and fan art and all that stuff. It doesn't take away from the creators. It in fact inspires more people to experience the work.
Oh, I mean, you dive to one of these subreddits, and all you see are, people using the handle Peton or Pito or whatever.
So there's a Reddit on the dark web. There's a separate Reddit that has its own subreddits on the dark web.
Yeah, it's called dark web /Reddit/r.
Oh,
so yeah,
okay.
So
no
yeah,
.com or anything in there. You just go to dark web in your browser bar, and that's how you get there.
Yeah, I didn't type. I don't know. I wouldn't know how to type HTTPS.
Sure, that's
dark. I don't know how you do that.
Okay.
I'm very unclear on it. So I just go and search in. I think maybe I wasn't on the dark. Boy, I should look into that.
Sure, this could
my
be
security is holy
false
cow.
dark
I'm in
web?
trouble.
Huh. Yeah,
wow.
You've over-mortgaged your web browser, I feel.
I did send in quite a bit of money. Huh. Well, I'm sure it's fine.
Good. As long as that was
Bridget
your money and not the. Not the players.
No, it came from the account,
Oh.
but I'm sure it's safe.
You just sent
I sent all the
somewhere.
accounting. I sent all the accounting to you at Connor@darkweb.net.
Okay, I got to check that one. I think.
All right.
I think Sir Depew might be squatting on that one.
Okay, well. Anyway, this was a recreation of that little bit of. It's a very short piece.
Okay.
It's just a recreation of the carriage ride home between Sir John. Who may or may not be the son of Sir Hugh. I'm unclear on that. But anyway, people love to just recreate the dialogue because it's in such short supply.
Got it. Yep. All right. That makes sense.
So let's listen to that right now. This cost us a lot, so I hope you enjoy it.
Sure.
Well, cracking good honeymoon, my dear. I am a bachelor no more.
Mm-hmm.
How about a little radio?
Tell me, I implore of you, Sir John and husband, why the once blithe and cheerful spot of peace is now apparently a dismal dungeon of the night of our homecoming, when all should have been a mass of dazzling glow and splendor? Can it be that she who proffered such ecstasy for months before, on the eve of our return, is now no more? Or can it be possible that we have crossed each other on the wide waters of tossing triumph or wanton woe? Speak at once, for pity's sake, and do not hide from me the answer of truth and honest knowledge. Oh, merciful heavens!
Oh, I'm sorry, dear. Did you say something? So yeah, that's how it went down. Good.
It's
good acting all around.
I think so. They're getting their money's worth over there on dark web /Reddit /
and then HTTPS.
Sure. That's why it's so tricky to get to. It turns everything you know about the internet on its head.
Underscore. Yeah, it's terrible.
So yeah, that's essentially a sitcom gag where it's like, I was gone for 10 minutes and I come back and you've lost all 3 of the castles. But then after she delivers that, she droops her head, which we eventually learn means she fainted from the shock. And so then they summon. It says Sir John lost no time in summoning the village doctor, who on arrival pronounced Lady Dunfern to have slightly recovered.
Well, this is puzzling because it says, so she was slightly recovered, and then 2 hours later, she partly recovered.
Yeah, Dr. Corbett arrives to pronounce her almost recovered.
So there's, again, it's that scale of, wait, was she slightly robust before, and now she's less robust?
Yes.
So recovered is also a scale that is as puzzling as robust is.
Yeah, it's very, very Dr. Nick. But
I would say you are partly recovered.
But it sort of reveals that once she has recovered from this, they pretty much like immediately turn into the Lockhorns, just sitting there, just like bitterly, in silence in their own separate rooms. It says he reveals her parents' status to her. It must sooner or later be revealed to her, who as yet had only tasted partly of the bitter cup of divided intercourse.
Whoa!
Yeah, bummer of a honeymoon.
And then I didn't pick up on it at first, but now looking back, as time moved on, Sir John and Lady Dunfern seemed to differ daily in many respects, which occasioned dislike in the breasts of both, and caused the once handsome, cheerful face of the much respected owner of Dunfern to assume a look of seriousness. So, and I think he refers to it later, but I think he's just getting old.
Right. Huh.
It's like it's the portrait of Dorian Gray, but it's the portrait, I guess.
Yeah.
He's just like,
so
he's just run ragged by this shrew in his house.
But earlier, when he was retiring to his walnut chamber to have fires lit and peruse documents, he was just beaming a big youthful grin as he's like reading these horrible things, like these invitations and stuff. But now he looks serious.
Well, we know that's how it works, right? If you're, you're a bachelor sitting there drinking beer and playing Xbox, you're a picture of health and handsomeness. And then once a lady enters your life, it's all over.
It also says he never forgetting to share fully his cheerful conversation with his wife when so desired, which, sorrowful to relate, was too seldom. Yeah, so everyone's just sitting there careworn and like David and Hazel, just, in this miserable silence. But it seems to be brought on by, just she hated him and wanted to marry someone else. So, I mean, what else is going to happen?
That was revealed very slowly to me. That does not.
Yeah, no.
It seems like there's a better cliched way to do it. She really buried the lead there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it does. It seems like she saw that her parents were bankrupt and evicted, fainted, woke up, and hates the guy. But it's not really based on that. That was just sort of a bump in the road of being like, I knew I hated you.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to Chapter 8 because we've got 2 more to cover here. Chapter 8's fortune cookie is: a word of warning tends to great advantage when issued reverently from the lips of the estimable.
Is that proper? From the lips? Oh, from the lips of the estimable. Oh, boy. Oh. I mean, there she's going for full Proverbs, right?
Yeah, just...
wisdom is like, whatever, my child, to take the wisdom, and then she follows it up. It serves to allay the danger pending on reticence.
God.
And substantiates in a measure the confidence which has hitherto. Boy, anytime you're sticking hitherto in there, I can't wait to see what happens next. Existed between the parties concerned. Substantiates in a measure the confidence which has hitherto existed between the parties concerned.
Just imagine pulling that scroll out of your fortune cookie, and it's like the like a magician's scarf gag where they just keep coming.
Yes. They're sitting in the kitchen, like looking at you unroll it and just laughing.
It's ticker tape. But yeah,
wow.
She's just sullen and pissed all the time now, and we which results in Amanda pushing a metaphor to its absolute bursting point. Yes, the duped husband, when being fished for with the rod of seeming simplicity and concealed character, and quickly caught on the hook of ingenuity with deception for a bait, was altogether unable to fathom its shallowest meaning. So just, take everything you know about fishing and cram it into one sentence.
Wait, she's using the rod of seeming simplicity. That seems kind of duplicitous. And concealed character. Yeah,
what's going on in deception. That rod?
Quickly caught on the hook of ingenuity. Wait a minute, you're not being straightforward. With deception for a bait? Wait.
It's like
how dare you?
It's like a parody of a political cartoon, like the Onion ones, where they just they unnecessarily label everything like freedom pointing to something, and then the tax plan pointing to something else.
Yes. So this was, I alluded to it at the beginning. This is the funny one. Is these moments just stand out. So it's all of that kind of just tortured metaphors, analogies. You know the drill. Mm-hmm. And then Sir John sitting there thinking about it all. Ringing furiously for a maid, he handed her a note to be delivered without delay to Lady Dunfern, the nature of which might well be suspected. All right. I just picture that. I got the bell in the hand, like, ding, ding, get in here. Take this note. I hate her. All right.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden it just goes back to the thick prose.
Yeah. And the what set that in action was another action scene where he was quietly ruminating over his wife's manner before marriage. So that's, can you imagine that serious expression? He became resolved to probe the wound that had swollen so enormously as to demand immediate relief. So here we go.
Tightening.
So that's what yeah, exactly. And then it says, be that as it may, Constance were instrumental in demanding immediate attention. And then she's summoned to the door with a slight tap was heard at the door of Sir John's study, the room being always his favorite haunt, where he sat beside a bright and glowing fire, walnuts are implied. Engaged in sullen thought, with an imperious come in, he still remained in the same thinking posture, nor was he aware for fully 5 minutes or so that his intruder was no other than she whom he had recently ordered into his presence. But certainly
5 full minutes or so. I was going to dare you to repeat this moment on the air.
Yeah, that would have been it. That would have been throw a match behind us, light the whole podcast on fire. Make people do that.
Look at it over our shoulder. But if you have a mind, I'll set it up for you, and then you can pause this podcast for a full 5 minutes or so to recreate it. Okay. Sure. So I've sent out the letter, and then you're at the door.
Yeah. Tap, tap, tap.
Come in. And now pause for 5 minutes. And we're back. Huh?
Oh, it's you, the person I sent for. That hadn't occurred to me.
Seems plausible, right?
Mm-hmm. Man,
because I was in my thinking posture. What are you talking about? How the hell do I know who it was?
You did seem engaged in sullen thought. That was and your come in was a touch imperious, so I should have thought.
Do you want to know why I waited 5 minutes? I thought it was Pedo. I thought he was setting up his easel, and that usually takes a good 5 minutes before he even begins to do one of his world famous paintings. Sorry,
Pedo's wedding present to us was a portrait of us as a couple. That was what it said. You were going to have him paint just you sitting alone in your favorite haunt.
But look, maybe there's a possibility that I thought that they were coming to gather up the remaining vessels for our wedding. That it was the catering crew, and so I didn't look up. I was lost in thought. Okay,
were you going to have
for 5 minutes or so?
Were you going to have Pedo paint you with that wound that is swollen so enormously that demands immediate relief? That is insanely vulgar. You look like the priest in The Little Mermaid in the final scene.
If you got it, flaunt it, baby. And Pedo, he can capture this thing, right?
Yeah, it does demand immediate attention. Great. But so they pretty much have a conversation. I summed it up in it was 9 uninterrupted paragraphs, which can sum up thusly as like, "Hey, are you banging someone?" He sort of asks that. And then she finally speaks after that. Do you have anything from that you want to interject here? I mean, there's more.
Well, just to set the stage once. No, I mean, go into it. But this is what he looked like. Here, Sir John, whose flushed face, swollen temples, and fiery looks were the image of indignation, restlessly awaited her reply. Swollen temples?
Yeah.
Can someone? Can we get
weird
Bob
gout?
Fingerman on that or something?
Florence Food didn't agree with him from that night.
I guess he needs what's the doctor's name? Get him over here,
Dr. Corbett.
Dr. Corbett, come on.
Only mention of Dr. Corbett. I did check.
Yes.
But she finally speaks, and it's a little like more confusing backstory. This was another thing where I was confused about whether she was 11, and now I'm confused further. She says, "I am the only child of the late Colonel Iddesleigh." God damn it! I am the only child of the late Colonel Iddesleigh who fell a victim to a gunshot wound inflicted by the hand of his wife, who had fallen into the pit of intemperance. So that means she was drunk. Her mom was drunk and shot her dad.
Yes.
Okay. And then it says, "Yes, Earl Peden's daughter was his wife and my mother, and only that this vice so actuated her movements." I have no idea. I looked at that for the first time, and I was like, his daughter was his wife? But Earl Peden is different than Colonel Iddesleigh.
I have I just was so excited that there was someone named Earl Peden in here that I was very, but I have no idea what this means. I don't have any idea.
Okay.
So he's Earl Peden's daughter was his wife and my mother. Mm-hmm. Those kinds of things drive me crazy, when they like, well, that's your
right.
second cousin once removed. Like, I have no ability to think about what that means.
Right. That's like the doctor saying, I can't operate on this person. This is my son or whatever. Like,
yes, I have no vision for that. And this one, in the middle of a sentence about Colonel Iddesleigh, yes, Earl Peden's daughter was his wife and my mother. Okay, so Earl Peden was Colonel Iddesleigh's father-in-law?
Yes.
Okay. And only that this vice so actuated her movements, I might still have lent to society, capital S, the object it dare not now claim, and thereby would have shunned the iron rule of being bound down to exist for months at a time within such a small space of the world's great bed.
God.
What is going? This is supposed to be a thunderstrike. This is the moment in a soap opera where they do the slow push in on a person's astonished face, and they play the little orchestra sting, and they go to commercial, right?
Yeah, I mean, season 3 of Mad Men, Don Draper revealing his mother was a prostitute, who that was a big moment, like his actual background. This is sort of what we're getting here.
But what does it mean? I don't know what it means.
I have no idea because they're using a special Earl Peden to make a point, and we have no idea who that is.
Not related to the painter. That's spelled different.
Right. And then she says, "I now wish." I don't know if it's actually her or him, but he says, "I now wish to retire, feeling greatly fatigued, and trusting our relation shall remain friendly and mutual. I bid thee good night." And that's how I say goodnight to Lauren every night. That's how we, some couples say I love you, but this is how I trust our relation shall remain friendly and mutual.
It's actually, I did bid goodbye to my wife is going. We're doing a live show in Nashville. She's going down there. My children live there. She took off this morning. Today is our anniversary.
Oh no.
And so when I bid her adieu, that's exactly what I did.
You heard the tires screech and her frantically rebooking a flight to a different city.
Yes. I totally understand that. Yep. I now wish to retire, feeling greatly fatigued and trusting our relation shall remain friendly and mutual. Have a good trip. Happy anniversary.
Right. And then she retires to her own apartment. And then we go to chapter 9.
Yes. Chapter 9, a little bit shorter chapter, but strikingly good.
Starts off with, "The thickest stroke of sadness can be effaced in an instant and substituted with deeper traces of joy." It is something I'm always saying.
Does that have anything to do with the tunneled cheek?
His swollen temple?
No, there was something earlier where one of her fortune cookie things started with like striking someone on the tunneled cheek of something, which I did not understand it. But I don't know if the thickest stroke of sadness is related to a strike on the tunneled cheek.
The tunneled cheek, like when you're posing for the duck face and sort of suck your cheeks in or something. Like
exactly, and then do the two fingers in the air. Yes.
So this is a big movement. We were led to believe. We were informed that it was August when they got married, because it was like on the 7th day of August is when they got the heave-ho from Castle Dilworth. But then it says, on the 10th day of June, following Lady Dunfern's interview with her husband, she gave birth to a son and heir.
Mm-hmm.
What do I apply for one of these interviews? Whew.
Hey man, I just thought I was coming in here to do some temp work.
Yeah, going to Florence for an interview takes on a whole new context. But we flash forward about just over 10 months, I guess, and here we go. But it buries the lead a bit, because she talks about some more flowery nonsense for a while, but then says, Lady Dunfern's life was hanging by a thread.
Yes,
she's not slightly recovered, she's not partially recovered, but it does say her beloved husband is there for her. And he raises himself up, clasps his darling in his arms, and whispers in her ear a word of encouragement.
Hey there, big shooter. Right. We're going to get you all the walnuts you need. We're going to have old Doc Corbett's coming over, and you're going to be just fine there.
He's got one eye on the televised polo match. That's on yes. But yeah, I mean, so I guess when you're retiring, feeling greatly fatigued, and trusting your relationship will remain friendly and mutual, word of encouragements are probably the best thing you can really muster.
Well, this one takes a funny turn, because the heir comes, the son is born, and he's like, well, he's all happy again, and then like you say, oh, and she's dying, and then the next paragraph is the frantic father wrung his hands in frenzy of madness. Literally, the paragraph before was the glad and happy father.
Yes.
So this guy is a cartoon character.
Yep. He's was passing out cigars before then, and now he's hat in hand.
Yeah.
But so
amazing.
It gives us some description of her, sort of like she's unconscious in this fevered state. She had even expressed sorrow in the course of her broken remarks at the false step she had taken to satisfy, not herself by any means, but Lady Dilworth. She strongly protested her hatred for him, who sat listening with grave intensity. She spoke of a cavity in her jewel case, which deposited a ring given by Oscar, and that she loved it as well as himself. And I was like, well, what is Oscar up to these days? I just imagine Oscar, like, as she lies dying in this fevered state, out like just living it up with the lady on each arm, two different like tutories that he's completely forgotten about this one person. But I, like you, went looking at the dark web to see if any of this might be relocated there. So yeah, dark web. .reddit.http.
Yeah, you might be then. You might have pulled up the exact same thing I did then, probably.
But yeah, people were sort of speculating as to like how this guy who because she's for the first time in this book speaking clearly. It's this unambiguous thing, like Oscar, like the ring. So what was her husband doing? As he wrings his hat as his love is flatlining here. So someone did recreate that moment.
Oh, good. All right.
Yeah. But didn't have to send anyone any money either, by the way.
Wait, you got yours for free?
Well, they post them there. It's like it's on their version of YouTube, but you can use a ripper to like download them.
Wait, so when you hit that download button, it doesn't give you that other button that says, in order for this download to complete, please enter your bank statement?
Yeah, the real download button. I know that there's like 3 fake ones, but yeah, that's...
the one that you have to like scroll down a little bit to hit?
Yeah, the pop-up that says your computer is infected, click here to do this. You don't have to do that.
Yeah, I click that every time.
Oh my God.
It starts beeping, and it says there's a message from Microsoft, like your computer is infected. So then I enter my bank account stuff again.
No.
Well, our bank account.
Okay. Oh yeah. Why did we share one? Man, we don't.
That is a good question.
I don't even trust our relationship will remain friendly and mutual after this.
Yeah, wow.
Okay. But let's listen to the dark web.
Okay. We join a distraught Sir John as Lady Dunfern's life hangs by a thread.
My dearest Irene, if only there was something I might do. Aha! You're crushing it, champ. Oh, Lord, please, I pray to you that she might be spared only a little longer. What's that? Irene? My dearest? Do you awaken with alarming alacrity?
Oscar.
She moans, Oscar. Forsooth, the fever has fogged her frontal lobe, and this member of the fairest sex identifies me, her own husband, as Oscar.
Oscar Otwell.
Zounds! Though she happily took my title as Lady Dunfern, the tides of fever lap over the shores of memory, eroding the sandcastle of my name and leaving the sculpture of John Dunfern unrecognizable as Oscar Otwell.
My darling and much-loved tutor.
Oh, this sheddeth no further clarifying light on this mysterious rogue.
Who taught me music?
What could this mean?
Italian music.
Speak clearly, woman.
Who I cheated on my husband with.
Curse you, O fever! Taketh my wife if you must, but at least allow me to understand her cryptic parting words.
My husband whom I hate.
It's as if she's speaking in tongues.
Even as he sits beside me now.
She could mean anyone.
Misinterpreting my unambiguous words.
How dareth Dr. Corbett pronounce her almost recovered as she babbles such outright lunacy?
John Dunfern.
Yes?
Has a small wiener.
I should find it easier to navigate the markets of Cairo in search of fine spices than to understand this gibberish.
There is a cavity in my jewel case in which is safely deposited a ring given me by Oscar Otwell, my tutor, during the happy period of instruction under his guidance. I love it as well as him.
Maybe I ought call an exorcist, lest the foul demon which has possessed her tongue leap down my throat and cause my own maw to spout such unintelligible claptrap as this.
The trials of a tortured throng are naught when weighed in the balance of future anticipations. The living sometimes learn the touchy tricks of the traitor, the tardy, and the tempted. The dead have evaded the flighty earthly future and formed to swell the retinue of retired rites, the righteous school of the invisible and the rebellious roar of raging nothing.
What? Irene banged her tutor and he gave her some pearl jewelry? This I gotta see!
All right, well, yeah, I mean, we both got our money's worth, I feel.
I think so. Overall, you divide it halfway, I think they're both worth $500,000.
Right. Wow, great acting.
Thank you. He takes upon that. We pick up right where that leaves off, and he sneaks into a room and examines the jewel case, where there's a gold band with a pearl. Mm-hmm. And a note that reads, I was confused at first, like a lot of this whole book. That's pretty much my review of this book. I was confused at first.
I'm going to start all my letters, to everyone, but especially to my love letters to my wife, with this. Headley, Burks, July 3rd.
Oh, I love it.
What does this mean? I don't.
It sounds like a publisher of school textbooks, Headley Burks, copyright this Spanish textbook.
I don't know. I guess I didn't search the word. Did you?
I did not. The second time because in the book it's even more off-putting. It's like they're both on its own lines. Headley Burks, July 3rd. I assume it's a place that he's writing it from. Like the village of Headley in Berkshire or something.
All right. Does she care? I don't know. I thought it was like maybe this is his two new side pieces.
Right. Yes.
His two T's.
It's the catchphrase he's going to try to start going to go along with the Southern Beauty.
Yeah, Headley Burks.
Yeah, you say it in a. It's like a password to get into a speakeasy. You say Headley, and if the bartender replies Burks, you can go back there.
Yeah, and at the end of the night, it's in the microphone. I say Headley, you say Burks. Burks. Headley Burks.
But yeah, it's a love letter from Oscar.
Yes, Oscar with a K. Who, so he's up in Headley Burks, 2T'ing some people, but he writes her a flowery love note, and I guess that's where it ends. Is that he sees it, right? Husband sees it.
Yeah, my main takeaway as he's reading this was they received you into their elegant home and shielded you by so doing from the tyrannical rule of Miss Lamont of, quote, the orphanage. So again, just like Depew and the other guy squatting in the castle, it's like, man, we missed a whole, like the Trunchbull type of deal. And he putting the orphanage in quotes makes it sound like it's a shut down bullpen from the 90s or something. Like, if the starter can just get through 6 and turn it over to the orphanage, they don't stand a chance.
The orphanage. They have their own theme song.
Yeah.
But it's always beautiful, though, when someone else tells you in a letter, gives you your own backstory. Right, is always nice, too. In which you were placed for a period of 8 years. Like, somebody writes me a letter like, I remember how you told me that you went to the College of River Falls. Like, yes. It's my life. I got it.
Right.
I've got it covered.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess this shows that their relationship with tutoring was more than just lust. Because I mean, if she has gotten into this deep backstory, the tyrannical rule of Miss Lamont, they probably did share a bit of a connection. Then either that or that Oscar was just like, oh my God, like, can you just play the piano so I can get back to the bar with Headley and Burks?
Yeah, it's hard to say, with all the flowery language that they would have used, even for people that they didn't particularly care for, is the thing. So maybe he's just like, I got to write a sign-off letter to this student. She's such a hag, but I guess I got to say something, just to kind of put a period at the end of the sentence, so to speak. Anyway, start pouring that port, and I'll be over in a second. I'm just going to write this cheap, flowery letter.
Yeah. God, we've got to figure out a better way.
Yes.
Hieroglyphics, maybe. Oh.
Yeah. So that's how it ends.
It is.
So that's quite a cliffhanger. Chapter 10 to come. We'll see what the husband's reaction is.
Yeah, not going to be good, I feel. But I mean, we've just talked for 2 hours, and what has happened? A guy got married. Her parents got evicted. He discovered she had a secret lover. I guess she fainted twice, and she had a baby. So yes. I mean, I guess a year did pass, but it certainly seemed like you could have probably done all this in chapter 1 and moved on to the actual drama.
I hope that chapter 10 opens with like John sat there for 5 minutes or so before he realized what the letter was. And then he swooned greatly.
Right.
And then we have to figure out, that meant that he like hit his head on the marble coffee table and is bleeding out.
Right. Yeah. Oh dear, this man is not slightly recovered.
All right. Well, good reading.
Absolutely. Very fun, very enjoyable, I think. And I mean, even though it was so short, I mean, in the print version, that was 46 pages, but it's one of those weird Dwight David Thrash sized books. So the margins are like at least an inch on either side. So, but it still took me a while. I had to focus.
It's tough. I was reading, I think I had the doc and then I have the PDF, and in both of them, the page numbers, again, because this is like Gutenberg, are just spread all over in the middle of the prose. So I'll copy a piece. Yes. It'll say like, Dearest Irene, 78, 79, yes. 80, 85.
Yep, that happened to me too.
How did this get copied into here? It's infuriating, but pretty easy read. I don't mind it.
Yeah, if you're not reading along, pick it up and try to get a taste of what we're reading, because I think more than any other book, this one is unique in the reading experience, I would say.
Yes, and it'll be over soon.
Yeah.
So
let's do some from our listeners. Again, many of them are Patreon supporters. Patreon.com/372pages. Get every episode early and other stuff. We're going to try to avoid ones we've already covered here, and that'll be a tricky thing because a lot of people sent in some very good ones that were fun to do, but they're also so long that we can't talk about them again. Are you ready? This one is from Andrew. This is talking about the castle Dunfirth in the early one. In fact, it had well been named the Eden of Luxury. And that's his Sir John's castle. He said, wouldn't an Eden of Luxury not have empty rooms that nobody ventures into or talks about? Maybe the forbidden nature is what makes it Eden.
Right.
This is from Arthur. Do not sit in silence and allow the blood that now boils in my veins to ooze through cavities of unrestrained passion and trickle down to drench me with its crimson hue. He says, putting aside the comically gruesome nature of the statement, what would qualify as cavities of unrestrained passion?
Oh, dear.
This is from Hayden. He says, that she whom he had ardently hoped should share his future with sheer and loving caresses of constant companionship and wife-like wisdom should be trapped in probably vowing to another her great devotion for him. And his comment was a picture that's Godzilla collapsed, and it says, Godzilla had a stroke trying to read this. This is from George. It says, yet such was fact, not fiction. And George said, amidst so much unspeakably purple prose, this gem of clear, concise stupidity somehow stands out. Let's see what else we've got. Irene stood looking out onto the lake beyond the richly draped window, ruminating on the days of her childhood, which lent a look of dullness to the beautiful face that beamed with delight as Sir John Dunfern entered. So, was her face dull or beaming with delight? That one's from Amanda and Con, and that was the one that led me to believe that she was happy to see him. She beams with delight when he comes to get her.
I guess she's faking it. I don't know. Who cares?
This is from Mandy. Within the venerable walls surrounding this erection of amazement and wonder may be seen species of trees, rarely, if ever, met with. Yea, within the beaded borders of this grand old mansion, the eye of the privileged beholds the magnificent lake, studded on every side with stones of costliest cut and finish, the richest binaries, the most elegant firms, the daintiest conservatories, the flowers and plants of almost every clime in abundance, the most fashionable walks, the most intricate windings that imagination could possibly conceive or genius contrive. I guess we touched on that, but good to revisit. Here we go. The second effusion of cordiality required neither anxious thought nor prolonged decision how to act, knowing as he did that it would again serve to bring his present thoughts into practice by affording him another opportunity of sharing in the loving looks of one for whom he feared there dwelt a strong inclination on his part to advance his affection. That was from Jay. Here we go from Chap. But future facts had to be solved, which undoubtedly would be treated with more comparative reverence than heretofore by him who suffered severely, yea, acutely, from the blow struck him on the eve of aspiration and achievement. He said that reminded him of the amazing Criswell's opening narration for Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Oh, right. Yes. Perfect.
This is from Janelle. Not until he was in full possession of its contents, he could not form the faintest imagination of its worth. And she said, you mean you don't already know what a letter says before you read it? Sympathy. There we go. We had the one about fishing. We had, here we go. Dressing herself with, this is from Doug, dressing herself with frantic expertness, she dashed down the winding staircase with an alacrity better imagined than described, and rushing into the breakfast room where Lord and Lady Dilworth eagerly awaited her, presented the outward mocking appearance of being the happiest of mortals. And that's where he said, better imagined than described, could apply to everything in this book. And the last one we have from a listener is from Andrew. After the important ceremony was performed and the register signed, Sir John and Lady Dunfern, when the usual congratulations were ended, left by the 1 o'clock train en route for the continent. And he said, with the book's long-winded description of everything that's not important, it blows right past this apparently life-changing wedding that the entire drama hinged on in just 6 words.
Yeah. Wow.
Do you have anything else that we...
I'll make mine my dumb sentence of the week, the one that I wrote.
Oh, nice.
This was my book, Mind Over Matters, and this was my intro to it. It can't be that hard to write a huge novel condemning puritanical moralizing, can it? I said, here's how I would do it. And so this is the opening sentence of Young Master Chillingshead. This is the chapter titled The Aged Pritchett Mister. The details, such as I will now endeavor to set down, are such that the retelling of them will only serve to elucidate the facts upon the situation. Such are those that this yarn seeks to shed light upon, inasmuch as those facts are sought to be made clear by him who sets them down, in this case I, who wishes this to be the eventuality. Hunch and Pritchett sat on the porch of his crumbling mansion by the sea in his great granite rocking chair, carving a whale into some smaller sea mammal.
Holy crap.
And then it goes on from there.
Wow.
It's not far off.
No, I mean, this is like, this is like a scene from an Indiana Jones movie where someone in the past is receiving and, saying something that like later on they encounter in the future.
Yes.
Like your eyes turned all black and you wrote this with your, both hands
My
at once.
skin turned frosty. Yeah.
And then you read it in Irene. Iddesleigh 30 years later and are like, oh, what?
Yes.
Your hair turns
what
white.
just happened? Yeah.
Amazing. Well done.
So that's my dumb sentence. Yeah.
I have this one. This is a one that we didn't cover, but it was just another insanely long one. Remaining breathless for a few seconds, lest he might be deceived by the rippling sounds of the adjacent waves, he again heard the same sweet strain, but of much longer duration than before, and quietly moving towards the spot whence it issued, another sound met his ear in the distance, which seemed to be hastily tread of someone making a good escape. Before he got time to view the object he would eagerly have pursued, but checking his desires somewhat, he allowed the matter to sink into silence.
You just in the middle of it, you hear the passive, like a sound that met his ears. Like, why do you have to like make everything passive? Like he heard this. We all know how that works,
right? It's an achievement, and it's an achievement to. I mean, it's fun. Everybody, your essay was very fun. All the fan fiction we got is fun, but keeping it up for 40,000 words is a marathon. So for her to have done that is pretty impressive.
But even in the midst of it, the plot is pretty fun. I mean, and again, plot with the heavy scare quotes around it. But
yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, but the fact that in that first sentence it says, currently resided by the master of Castle Dunfern is the son of Irene. It doesn't seem like Sir John has much. As going to make it to the end of this.
Yeah. Wow. All right.
Well, yeah, I think we've gone too long for emails. We'll either...
we can do that another time.
Sure. Yep. Sounds good. But thanks everyone for listening. We'll post the assignment.
Keep reading.
We'll post the assignment in the comments because I don't have it pulled out right now.
Thanks all listeners. Thank you Patreon people for supporting us. It means a lot. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.